Yep. Yeah, I just want to know if you can just give me exactly the dollar amount, but I think we came to what that was, 50, right?
Yeah, he'll have.
Just to verify?
Yeah, I'll text him.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead. I know we're having some wonderful conversations here and getting business done before the meeting, but after all, it is 7 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and call this business meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission to order for Monday, December 4th, 2023. And our first order of business is roll call. Clerk Borling.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Pradle.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you so much, Clerk Borling. Next is our opening ceremony. And we are lucky to have William Bookestein here from the Emmanuel Fellowship Church, and he will be providing an invocation. I'm going to ask everybody to stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Honored Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners, and other esteemed civil servants, on behalf of Emmanuel Fellowship Church, thank you for your service. We believe that God serves us through you, and so we're very thankful for you. We pray for you as a congregation. We did yesterday, we do on a regular basis, and we're so thankful for your work. Glad to be here this evening and thankful to lead us in prayer. Let's come to God. Almighty God, you are the ruler of nations. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. You made us that we should seek you, and you are not far from each one of us. In you we live and move and have our being. Give us true thoughts of you. Make us respectful of your revelation in the wonder of nature and in the inerrant, infallible scriptures. And help us to pray as your Son taught us. Thank you for the blessing that you've showered upon our land with fruitful harvest. Give us now wisdom and patience to be good stewards of it and of the resources you graciously give us for our callings. Keep us from exploiting your good gifts for our selfish accumulation, and make us ever mindful of our duties to each other and to your creation. Order our priorities and interests so that our callings in life will promote rather than hinder our love for you and for our neighbor. We pray for such humility of conduct and faithfulness in our worldly callings that we may contribute to the good of our neighbors and live peaceable lives in all godliness and honor. Deepen the bonds between us as citizens, spouses, parents and children, friends and neighbors. Resolve conflict and strife according to your wisdom and grace. In prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in trouble, keep our faith from failing. Bless us with industry, prosperity, learning, and purity of life. Care for the poor, the homeless, and the imprisoned. Bear up the grieving. Save us from discord and violence, and from pride and arrogance. Preserve us from disaster and sickness. Defend our liberties. Perfect true unity. Conquer evil, and establish your rule throughout the earth. We pray especially for those who serve our common welfare in government. Grant those whom you have ordained to govern us wisdom and integrity and joy in their work. Guide them to do justice and to love mercy. Give them a restraining fear of you to keep them from abusing authority, and give them the knowledge that they, with us, stand under your final judgment. Use them to contribute to the advancement of a society that is pleasing to you. May they restrain wickedness and vice, promote justice and virtue, and remove every obstacle to the preaching of the gospel and divine worship, so that the word of God may have free course, the kingdom of Christ may progress, and every evil power may be resisted. Through our leaders, make flourishing and peace prevail. Bless this meeting and every good endeavor undertaken by those who lead under you. Father, if you should count our sins, we would be unworthy to present our prayers before you. Our consciences accuse us, and our sins testify against us. And yet in your goodness, you have adopted your children in Christ and delight to hear their prayers offered through his mediation. Therefore, we look to no other king and seek no other advocate for the help that we need in this world and in the world to come. Bring us at last to that city of peace, whose foundations are mercy, justice, and goodwill, and whose builder and maker is God Almighty. This we pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And God bless you all.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you very much once again for those of you that are attending this meeting with us in the chambers here this evening. Next item of business is for commissioners. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're ready for this, so you're waiting for it. Is adoption of our formal agenda. So are there any items that we would like to move from our consent agenda, change, or move to our regular agenda? Manager Ritzma.
Yeah, we have a couple of items. One, item G12, we ask that it be removed from this evening's agenda as staff are working last-minute details with the developer at this time. And then we'd like to move item G19 to the regular agenda for a staff update on that resolution.
Thank you very much, Manager Richmond. Anyone else? Commissioner Praedel.
Yes, just have some edits to the 11:20 minutes, and so I was wondering if we could move G18.
So will we move that to the regular agenda then?
I believe that's what Scott
Okay.
posted. Yep.
Okie dokie. Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to add to new business the discussion of commission initiative funds.
All right. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, seeing none, is there anyone in the chambers that would like to move an item from the consent agenda, which is G, to the regular agenda? Yes, Mr. Messer.
Budget hearings.
What number is that? 11. Anyone else? All right, thank you so much. Seeing no other changes, we will move on then. Next is communications. Manager Ritzma.
Yeah, tonight we have a presentation by Meg Blinkevich, and she is the Executive Director of KidNet and would like to present on the outcomes from this previous summer's youth activities that KidNet undertook with city funding. So Meg, you want to come forward?
Welcome.
For the invitation, we appreciate it. Thank you to the mayor, vice mayor, commissioners, staff, city leaders. I'm Meg Blinkevich. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm here with my colleague,
Jane Asumadu, she, her, hers, OST program development coach. So our vision is an anti-racist community where all youth thrive. With the city support through the ARPA funds, almost 2,000 youth were moving towards thriving in the community this summer. Our mission is to ensure that all youth have agency within a well-coordinated system that supports anti-racist, high-quality, and youth-driven out-of-school time programming. Our theme is Be the Domino, And as you can see, there is a bridge, building bridges to thriving youth. We believe that tackling these barriers in the system, which include things like out of school time, the workforce, education, transportation, healthcare, juvenile justice, business, and housing, will help us move towards building a community that is good for helping our youth thrive. And with our transformational relationship with the city and through the ARPA fund, we were able to make sure that over 2,000 youth and hundreds of staff were provided for this summer.
So we wanted to highlight the process before we get into some of the outcomes. Lots of lessons learned from 2022. We used the Celebrate, Grow, Action approach, and so we were able to work with the city to get the nod to move forward earlier in 2023. So that meant we could start the process. Kid Network hosted a series of webinars when the notice of funds available was released so that organizations and programs that were interested in applying could have in-depth support in how to apply. And that was new this year. We were able to do that to help folks apply. It's not an easy process accessing federal funds. It's very different than accessing local philanthropic dollars. And so the feedback we got from the 60 organizations that participated in those webinars was overwhelmingly positive. So that was something we wanted to highlight. We did receive proposals from 42 organizations totaling almost $2 million. 30 of those organizations were selected for the $900,000. And again, they were all supported by our internal coaches. We hired Jane as a summer contractor. She's now a full-time staff member after the wonderful experience that those non-cohort members had. And you'll see later on the quality of programming was much higher this year, and we think it was intentional efforts on our part to support all organizations. We also were able to engage our compliance contractor earlier in the process on the financial side, and so she could provide technical assistance to organizations as soon as they were awarded funding, and that made a world of difference as well. So in terms of the number of youth, you can see that almost 2,000 young people were served, pretty much equal breakout between male and female. About 70% were youth of color, and between the elementary and secondary age, the city asked that secondary youth be made a priority, and you can see that that came into fruition. And so the making priority points available in the rubric and really getting the word out to organizations that work with middle schoolers and high schoolers, it worked because that percentage was flipped, if not even more so last year in terms of the difference between elementary and secondary. In terms of program quality, you can see the green bar chart is 2023, the green bar, the white bar is 2022. So you can see that quality was either maintained or improved in 2023. We believe that that is due to two things. A lot of cohort members applied and were funded, and then the 10 organizations that didn't have a relationship with us, we hired Jane early in the summer, and she connected with them and really built relationships with them, so was able to coach them in quality and social emotional learning, and that makes a big difference. We're going to talk about some of the feedback from staff and the skills they were able to build over the summer. And so all of that goes into making these really high quality experiences for young people.
All right, going into some of our major takeaways. For one, the process was improved from 2022 based upon feedback from organizations. Meg just touched on the process and the feedback from the process as well. Program quality was higher among cohort members than non-cohort members. We used the Summer Learning Program Quality Assessment from the Weichert Center to assess quality in our out-of-school time programming. In 2023, summer organizations employed 195 staff and served 1,960 youth. So close to 80% of youth gain or maintain social emotional learning skills. We use the Hello Insight assessment tool that we are basing that number on. The Hello Insight assessment assesses about 6 capacities, which include social skills, social capital, which is the amount of adult support in a youth's life, contribution, positive identity, self-management, academic self-efficacy, excuse me. All programs indicated being able to pay staff $16 an hour or more, which help with retention and enhanced programming. To have a great program, we have to have staff there and that are feeling well about what they're doing. Also, staff self-assessment results showed that adults improved their skills over the course of the summer. Organizations were able to pay youth leaders and create a pipeline of youth staff. A lot of the organizations that I saw not only had adult staff, but also had older youth leaders that were getting paid as well. Youth were able to take focused field trips. The funding helped the youth get out of the buildings and to explore the community surrounding us. Programs continue past the end of a typical summer program based upon youth feedback. You know, if I remember back in the day when summer programming was a week, but in my experience, I saw a lot of programming that lasted over a month. High quality resources were offered: food, materials, guest facilitators, and field trips.
Before we get into this slide, I just wanted to talk about a few lessons learned. Obviously, getting out of the gate earlier in the year, the earlier the better for obvious reasons. We have the National Summer Learning Association, their slogan is "Summer starts in September." And so our sector starts planning for summer in September. We really start in January. Our January Action Friday is always when we kick off summer. So that's when organizations are starting to think about what is our program going to look like, how many staff can we hire, how many young people can we hire. So the sooner they know about funding, the better, obviously, and that all impacts quality, which impacts youth outcomes. So it definitely helps. The earlier we know, that helps us be able to build our capacity, being able to really provide the financial support. If you remember last year, I talked about the huge capacity building investment that we believe needs to go on in the nonprofit sector to be able to tap into federal and state funds. It's a whole different ballgame with federal and state funding. And we saw greater capacity in 2023 for out-of-school time orgs to be able to participate, but there's still a lot of capacity building that has to go on, especially with the financial component. So as you're thinking about funds that may be available, how to support the nonprofit sector in general, that is definitely a need. So what we wanted to talk about, the last thing we wanted to talk about is working with Jeff and his team. We know, in 2022 and 2023, there was $1 million available. The city's projecting $750,000 for 2024 and $500,000 for 2025. And so in conversations with the city, we know where that gap is, which is the red part of that bar chart. So we have been busy reaching out to local funders, the state, working with the Michigan After School Partnership to see how we can raise that $250,000 for 2024. We may not make it to 250. We have one local funder who said yes, submit an application, and possibly one other local funder. And I also want you to know that the Michigan Department of Education is releasing the names of the organizations that received the $50 million that was allocated for the first time in the state of Michigan in their budget, first time ever, funding specifically for the out-of-school time sector was allocated. It was $50 million. We're waiting to see what Kalamazoo organizations were awarded that funding because it includes money for summer programs. And so we worked really hard with the Michigan After School Partnership. Our entire sector in Kalamazoo County and Calhoun County did a lot of work with the Michigan After School Partnership. And Percy Gordon, if you remember Percy, he was there meeting with state legislators, yes, to try to get this passed. And so we want you to know we're working hard to leverage other funding. And we're working hard to maintain that 50 million or to increase it. And then our job at Kid Network is to make sure that local organizations have the capacity to tap into that funding, because that process isn't easy either with the Michigan Department of Education. We did the best we could this year. It was a fast turnaround, but hopefully if the money's available in 2025, we can do an even better job of being more intentional so that $500,000 in 2025, we can leverage state funding, not just look at local philanthropy to meet that gap. So a couple of things I want you to lean into is, one, we appreciate the heads up from the city. Again, just being honest and transparent, right? Saying, look, it's going to be $750,000, then $500,000. It gives us time, as much time as we can get to work with other funding sources. And I want you to know that we are. As soon as I talked to Jeff, got on the phone, sent emails out, say, what can you do to help? Here's the situation. So that's where we are. We look forward to being able to maintain and grow the investment in summer. It makes a huge difference in getting not only young people but adults across that bridge to thriving. We know with that livable wage, the living wage, it helps. And we also know from adults that building their skills and the improvement that we saw, it makes them much more employable, right? Not just in our sector, but in other sectors. So this is contributing not only to young people, but to adults as well. So thank you very much. We appreciate the partnership. We are very much moving from transactional partnerships to transformational partnerships, and look forward to continuing to work with the city in that vein. So thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you, for being here. Questions, commissioners? Vice Mayor Hess? No? All right. I'm looking for cues here. Okay, Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for this great work. It's wonderful. And thanks for immediately looking for the funds. We can't let this go down. This means too much to the people in the community, to the young people especially, and as you pointed out, to the staff to improve their skills. So we've got to keep this going at the same or better rate than we've been doing it. But thank you for your amazing work.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you guys for this. I did have a question. Do you know if any of these organizations, I understand these are more for summer programs, will any of these organizations continue to do the work that they're doing throughout the school year?
I want to say close to 100% program year-round. We were, one of the things we probably should have highlighted, we had a couple of programs and we had a couple of faith-based programs that had been doing great work in the community, and we were able to fund them this year. And so now they are running year-round. They joined the cohort. They are very much about this process of improving what they're naturally doing. But I would say at least 95% are going to be able to program year-round.
Thank you. Commissioner Decker. Other questions? Yes, Vice Mayor Hess.
Not necessarily a question, but just a comment. Just really reading through all the folks who receive these grants is tremendous. And then having attended the celebration in the park for all of those, the summer cohorts and seeing all the kids and seeing all of the interactions between adults and youth can only enhance all of their lives. So this is really important work, and while I wish the ARPA funds would not dry up, they are, and the fact that you've been proactive on that is really wonderful. So thank you for doing that. I do hope that that those grants can be matched and exceeded, and whatever we can do to help. Thank you.
Commissioner Pradel.
Jane and Meg, thanks for being here tonight. I've probably said this quite a few times from the dais, but I genuinely believe that there's no segment of the population that was more adversely impacted by the health pandemic, than our young people. And I was particularly excited. You talked to a lot of educators. They say one of the probably most hardened impacts to young people was social emotional learning. And so I was really excited to see that that's such a core tenet to the work that you're trying to do with the nonprofits that you worked with. So thank you for that work on social emotional learning. I don't want to put you on the spot completely, but I think it's always really helpful for the community to kind of humanize and hear a story or two. But are there any particular, out of the 30 organizations or people who are involved in the 1,900 plus young people or 135 staff members, just one or two stories that particularly just moved you about how much of an impact it had on their lives that you'd be willing to share?
So I got the privilege of working with a lot of non-cohort members who were able to receive these funds over the summer. One program that I saw was called Build Up. They are two people who are not even from the state of Michigan. I think they have some roots here, but they came together because they wanted to start a program for young people around video production, but not just video production, also social justice and video production. So they had a group of young people, high schoolers, who were making films, learning about the film process, but also discussing hard issues challenges that are going on in the community, especially with themselves. And they asked me some challenging questions when I went to go visit them. And, I could just tell that our young people are thinking about these things. They want to talk about these things. They want to explore their creativity in these ways. And so that was one program that I saw. And something cool that Build Up did is that they had pop-up art, art workshops in local parks. So I went to the north side with them, we were in the south side, and they just said, hey, we got the supplies, come on out. And they had kids coming out from the neighborhood, walking with their cousins, with their dogs, with their stuffed animals, just to come out and do art in the park. And it was safe, it was fun, it was cool. So that was one program that I saw this summer.
One program I'd like to highlight is a church on the east side. They had been doing programming without a lot of funding. All volunteer staff applied. We were able to fund them. And the growth in their program, they were able to hire staff. They participated in all the training, offer 3 meals a day, and now they're able to have a track record, right? They've got some data, they've got quality data, impact data, and they're up and running year-round now, and they're able to pay staff, they've been able to access other funding, and so that I think in 2023, we were more able to reach grassroots organizations, truly grassroots orgs that have been doing this on a volunteer basis, and support them to be able to apply, to meet all those compliance requirements, submitting every single receipt every single month, it sounds like not a heavy lift, and it is. And so I was really touched by that program and that organization and the impact that, $30,000 can have on an organization can be huge.
Thank you. Other questions, commissioners? So thanks once again. Obvious, this is another example of how the only real way that the city can get a lot of its good work done is by partnering with local nonprofits. Obviously, all these areas are not areas of city expertise or connection, and being able to leverage that through your efforts makes it all happen. So thank you. And just a couple things I think about, which I know you're already thinking about, is as these one-time American Rescue Plan Act dollars diminish, as we're watching here, what is the best thing we can do over the next couple of years to prepare ourselves for what that new landscape might be like? And I know you've already talked about that. Are we creating a capable infrastructure in our nonprofit partner world that will be able to access other grant opportunities? And I know you already mentioned that, but that is definitely, if nothing else, I hope that there are not organizations that have been able to access some of the money that when this ends, that's going to be the end of it for them. I really, really hope that there are other opportunities. And another thing for all of us to think about, I guess, is while we're doing this, we've had funding that in many cases has been 100% funding. What does leveraging look like? What does that leveraging model look like? Is that a way to stretch resources? And I guess lastly, and sometimes I think you did a very nice job of spreading this. You can look at the whole list of organizations and what they could do with a rather small amount of money, organization after organization. But looking at that effectiveness and outcome piece, which is so important and so hard to measure in that kind of human service field in a way, but I'm hoping that that's something else that we can carry forward, is some sense about what, as long as we're leveraging scarce resources, what is the most effective way to deploy those resources? And I know you're thinking about that as well, but those are some things that come to mind for me. So I'm looking forward that we're going to continue to have regular and kind of intense conversation about this over the next couple of years, and that it will be more than just this kind of conversation. We'll be having that ongoing working conversation. So thank you so much for your efforts, and thanks for being here. Yeah,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, Commissioners, just a reminder, I know we obviously on a regular basis, I think, are frustrated sometimes by the lack of things that we can do and that scarcity world that we live in. But just as a reminder for everybody, this comes out of the goal-setting efforts, what is important to us, how we reflect that in the community, which is how these things get deployed and happen. Of course, we've got another one of those retreat opportunities for us coming up in February, but this is the manifestation of that work that starts way back on some Saturday morning when we get together and put a bunch of sticky notes on a board and define and have to make painful decisions about, out of all the things we care about, what are things we want to focus on and support. So, thank you for that. Now is the time on our agenda for public comments. So public comments, it's not a time for dialogue. This is a time for you to make comments here as part of our business meeting. You'll have 3 minutes. Anyone in the chambers can come up first here. Just give us your name and whether you live in the city. Please come forward. You can sign your name afterwards if you'd like. And then just a reminder is that at this point we are still providing the opportunity for call-in public comments. And the number for that is 888-382-9556. And Deputy City Manager Chamberlain will be managing those. So let's start with comments here from those of you who are in the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Saeed Abu Bakr. I am professor of chemical and paper engineering at Western Michigan University for the last 23 years. I came to Michigan in 1977, and it seems like yesterday. So I'm here today to ask the City of Kalamazoo Commissioner to pass a resolution for ceasefire in Gaza. Yes, Gaza is far away, but I have 3 reasons why I'm asking for this. Number one, City of Kalamazoo is known to be a city of social justice for all, and we all are human beings, whether you are citizen of Kalamazoo or thousands of miles away. We are all human beings. We love our children, and we love to have peaceful and happy life for our children. So that's my number one reason. My number two reason that there are a couple cities in the state of Michigan already passed such a resolution, including Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Hamtramck, Dearborn, and other places. Number three, I want to just share with you the pain and suffering that has been going on for the last 2 months. Over 16,000 Palestinians has been killed, and the vast majority of them are children. I'm sure you are like me, saw the pictures on media, how these children are taken out from the rubble, from under building where they lost all their family or half of their family. I cried a lot the last 2 weeks, but I am not alone. We have people in Kalamazoo who have Palestinian descent who has family there. We have 5 professors at the university, at the Western Michigan University, who are Palestinian descent who has families out there. One of them has families in Gaza. We have one graduate from Western Michigan University, Abdulaziz Abu Shaban, his house was hit by a big bomb that killed his daughter and injured all his family, and we are doing fundraising for him to come to the U.S. to get some medical help. So over 16,000 people were killed, and the majority are children. Most hospitals being bombed, school being bombed, churches, Baptist church in Kalamazoo, in Gaza is one of the oldest church in the world being bombed. So there are 200 kids are born every day.
Thank you very much. Next, please. I'm sorry that no one will be able to hear you who's tuning in when the microphone's off. So the 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, City Commission. Actually, I was going to use the 3 minutes pertaining to the Kalamazoo Promise, but my grandfathers are from Lebanon, and what the professor just said is actually very inaccurate. When Hamas is hiding under a hospital and putting people as human shields, it's absolutely absurd. And nobody in the Islamic community I see of great stature has condemned it. And I used to be far more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause until I saw a lady being interviewed strapping bombs, teaching her children to strap bombs on them and detonate themselves on a bus full of school children. That's not why I'm up here, but I just wanted to address that. The Kalamazoo Promise, in the years that I've been here, I keep hearing and I listen to radio a lot. The Kalamazoo Promise to me is an absolute joke. It's a joke. The concept is a great idea, phenomenal idea, but it's a joke when I work for the Postal Service right now, and I hear parents telling me that their kids can't even write their name. They're not teaching cursive, poor grammar, baggy, saggy pants. It's a joke. And if you push the children through the academic system and they're never held accountable or they're never taught right from wrong, even something simplistic as properly holding a pen so they don't get arthritis or rheumatism, it's not going to do anything. If you put that child who's been pushed through the system and tell them you can go to Western, or I don't know if it applies to all local colleges, it's not going to do any good. Because if that computer, let's say, they're supposed to finish an assignment, they can't even write their own paper because they were never taught simplistic math without a computer. And It's an embarrassment. It's an absolute, it's not just the city of Kalamazoo, I'm saying in general, the concept of giving somebody a free college education for going to certain schools, it defeats the purpose. It's like my friend when he went into the Marines, he was very undisciplined, and he said the first thing they did, they stripped him down. You're not black, you're not white. They were all called maggots equally, but they build them up. They strip them down, shave their head, and they build them up. That's what needs to be done in the local school district. And I don't know about this new gentleman, I wish him well, but I think the city of Kalamazoo should look for a curriculum that helps everybody from the ground up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name is Matt Clydesdale. I live at 579 Nazareth Road in Kalamazoo Township, just down the road from two facilities owned and operated by the city of Kalamazoo. One is the training facility for firefighters and law enforcement, and the other is Shippers Crossing, a contaminated waste removal facility presently used for the dumping of trees and spoils like asphalt and concrete. Conveniently for the city, Shippers shoots way out into the township and puts any of the nuisances that often go along with those operations far away from city residents, but unfortunately right in our backyard. What's the problem? For decades, the city's stretch of Nazareth has been a roadside dump where people have been dumping and littering with abandon. Everything from garbage to old toilets, sinks, lazy boy chairs, dressers, carpets, broken windows, discarded deer parts, fish guts, meth waste, concrete rubble, brush, tires, and more tires, and not to mention chronic levels of litter every day. So I guess you get the picture. It's disgusting. Why is it happening? Nearly every business and resident along Nazareth Road takes decent care of their property, except for the city. For decades, the city never mowed its front lawn to Shippers Crossing, rarely picked up trash, and to date still hasn't put any signage at the front gate to that facility. The whole stretch looks unkept and uncared for, and in our community, that signals to bad actors that it's okay to trash the place. It's textbook blight, and it lowers the quality of our lives. So 6 years ago, I wrote the city manager and asked the city to take responsibility for the problem. I'm here tonight because what could have been a simple exercise in accountability has been an exhausting and drawn-out struggle. For example, it took 4 years of appeals to the city before Jim Cornell, wastewater division manager and manager of that property, finally started mowing regularly. And what happened? The number of dumpings plummeted to 0. That was last year. Same thing this year. So you can see I'm not just being a male Karen when it comes to mowing your lawn. I'll be returning to the city commission meetings until the city finally embraces consistent, adequate care of that facility. And believe me, the bar could not be any lower in terms of what needs to be done. I'll follow up with an email to the city commissioners that has some additional material. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Get worried, I'm not going to go over all of this. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Mayor Anderson, Vice Mayor Hess, City Manager and Commissioners. I'm Kevin Trayer with the National Association of Postal Supervisors. I live at 8943 East DE Avenue in Richland, Michigan. Been a member of the Executive Board and of the association for 26 years. 25 years I've spent doing legislation at the federal level, getting to know Congressman Fred Upton very well. And Mayor Anderson, you and I stood up last December at the press conference that Congressman Upton held to let the community know what the deplorable thought process this new Postmaster General has come up with. We affectionately in our association call him Louis DeLay, not DeJoy. But the bottom line is, the facts are, local governments have been able to stop this consolidation for the past year. This is unusual because I've only ever worked at the federal level. I'm asking that this package be put in the public record so each commissioner can have a copy and my contact information. There's resolutions from every county commission, the road commission, townships, villages, all in here. And I'd like to know at any time when all the government agencies could come together to oppose one single thing. It's amazing, but it's the right thing to do. How is this going to affect the city of Kalamazoo? I just got notification October 31st that they are starting the consolidation process. It is slightly reduced, but one is too many. They're going to start with the largest station in the city of Kalamazoo, Westwood. Well, it's not the city, but for those in the Postal Service, the Kalamazoo, Maine, Parchment, Westwood, and zip code zone in Portage all cover the city of Kalamazoo and the surrounding areas. The other is the complete removal of delivery services to the city of Portage and to Schoolcraft. The latest letter that I have on here is from the city manager of Portage that outlines the history of how it went from the size it is to the size it is now to nothing after this goes through. When you take 90% of the workload there away, there will be no jobs. The other congestion is most of this traffic is going to be going through the city of Kalamazoo to get there. The Road Commission has put in a request to DeJoy to do a traffic study. He's ignored it. He's ignored everybody. But Congressman Huizenga needs to hear from you all because I have direct conversations with him. And now, Congressman Wahlberg.
Thank you. Good to see you again. Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to make a public comment? Seeing no one, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain, has anybody called in with a public comment?
We'll go ahead and check right now, see if there's anybody on the line. Go ahead, you're live with the Kalamazoo City Commission now.
Yes, hello?
Yes, go ahead, you're live with the commission.
Yes, my name is Faye, and I also support a ceasefire in Gaza. As a city that is always talking about social justice, we have to support the people of Palestine, and we cannot let the narrative of Hamas blind us to the fact that the Palestinian people are being murdered, are being bombed by Israel and the United States that supports and sends billions of dollars. When the Gaza Strip has already been labeled an open-air prison, the power dynamic that is there is something that this city just fails to see in terms of class. Let's not even talk about race. Let's talk about class. Let's talk about the power that the people in this city hold, that the people who support Zionism and Israel hold, the renters, the landlords, the people who want to be all of a sudden colorblind when there is an environmental crisis, and a $600 million lawsuit against the mayor himself, Anderson, and Jim Ritzema, and the board, and this commission that consistently gives GPI, graphic packaging tax rate. Okay, that is the power dynamic. You want to be colorblind? Let's do it. Let's talk about white supremacy. Let's talk about how it is not fair that there are over 2,000 houseless children in Kalamazoo. There are families doubled up. There was 10 families just last week on a waiting list. What were they going to do? If they went and doubled up with family, HUD would not give them any benefits. They would lose their benefits. And what can the city, the county offer? Hardly anything. Nothing. For children who are houseless. So you want to come and talk about after-school programs? Let's talk about the people who need the help the most. Okay, let's talk about the people, the programs that you have all here consistently said about the RX program, about all these benefits for people who are struggling. It is just a front to say that there's prosperity in Kalamazoo when the ALICE statistics speak for themselves, when the poverty levels speak for themselves, when it is cold and there is houses to build. How do you go home and you sleep when you know there is houseless people out there that don't have a home, when there's Palestinians being bombed every single day with our tax money? Israel is powerful. The United States is powerful. The Gaza Strip is not. The North Side is not. And you continue to let plastic packaging do the harm. KPS staff don't get paid enough. Some of them are houseless. This city needs to do better. This city truly needs to do better and really put your actions. Your actions speak louder than words. Your actions speak louder than words, no matter if you're black or you're brown or you're white. You sit in those seats, you're
Hi, go ahead. You're live with the Kalamazoo City Commission.
Hi, my name is Shona Espinoza, and I live in Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo has a housing crisis, and many of you that sit on this board has a background in housing and or sit on a housing board. Kalamazoo Public Schools has hundreds of houseless students who don't qualify for services because to be considered houseless for HUD, state, and federal levels, you must be out on the street or at a shelter. But under the KPS guidelines, doubling up is considered being houseless, which only gets you a referral to an agency, which will be denied because under HUD, state, and federal, double up isn't considered houseless. Why should our students have to wait till they are out on the streets or in the shelter to receive help? Why put our students through even more trauma? We can make changes, which is to understand what really is considered houseless. Why should our children and our students continue to deal with trauma? Why shouldn't our students receive services before they become houseless or doubled up? When will our students' needs become important? Our children deserve better, and the last thing that they should have to deal with is not knowing if they are going to have a place to stay or lay their heads. How can they think about education when they're thinking about where are they going to lay their heads or go home to after they leave school? Houseless and housing is the reasoning behind the why. Why are they failing school? Why they have failing grades? Students who sleep in class, students who have difficult behaviors. Why our graduation rates look the way that they do? The lack of attendance. When is the city commission going to put our children first? When are you going to look into the KPS and see how bad their houseless crisis is? Why should our students not have this board stand behind them and stand up for what houseless is? They shouldn't have to wait till they're out on the street or having to stay in the shelter before something is done. Our children deserve better. And please, I'm asking you, please connect with Kalamazoo Public Schools to help them deal with their housing crisis, because over 1,500 students are houseless, out on the street, doubled up, and hundreds of them can't even get services. So I'm asking you, please connect with KPS and help them fix this crisis.
Hi, go ahead. You're live with the Kalamazoo City Commission now.
Hi, my name is Tina McClinton. I'm calling because of the fact that we're about ready to flood. Your ponds are overflowing, which I know your ponds are only 4 feet deep, and they're supposed to be 10 feet deep. You hear all these people calling and asking you to do something about issues, and you won't do anything about anybody because we're not Bill and Bill. You guys are just lining your pockets and taking everything for you, but you're not caring about the residents of Kalamazoo who are calling you and asking you to fix things and to do things that need to be fixed, and quit ignoring everybody. You ignore everything everybody says to you. You know, we've asked you to fix the flooding over and over and over again. But you ignore us. You ignore the pollution. You ignore the flooding. You ignore the sewer backups. Yeah, I know. You guys are only for the money. I know you guys can pat yourself on the back because you're getting richer and richer every day. But you're destroying our city of Kalamazoo. You're doing bike lanes. You're making the streets unsafe for anybody, cars, bikes, people, anybody. Crime is out of control, and yet you sit there and do nothing about it because none of you live in the poor neighborhoods. None of you have to deal with this. All you care about is the rich, making downtown for the rich to have a playpen to play in. You know, it's time to start caring about the poor people for once. It's time to start fixing shit. Fix things that need to be fixed and quit ignoring things, guys. Come on. You say you're for the people of Kalamazoo, you are only for the rich. That's all you're for, is the rich. And eventually, the crime's going to go in the rich neighborhoods, and then you're going to be in trouble because they're going to be calling you right and left, and you're going to have to do something. You can't ignore them like you ignore us poor residents. Thank you. Goodbye.
All right, go ahead with the Kalamazoo City Commission.
Yes, hello, this is Joe Byers. I'm a city resident. I'm calling in to support the City Commission passing a ceasefire resolution. I also am calling in about the water rate increase. It hasn't even been a full year since the 20% increase last time. And they're talking about increasing rates again. I mean, I just can't believe it. I also am upset to hear that you're not going to be, or you're going to be cutting people's water off. Inflation is at the highest level ever. Pay rates for the working class are the lowest ever. And you all are talking about increasing water rates after a 20% increase less than a year ago and cutting people's water off. It's unconscionable.
Okay, I think that was the last call.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain, for managing that. And I want to thank everyone who took the time and made the effort to provide public comments here for our meeting this evening. Next is our consent agenda. Manager Witzma.
The following items are presented for approval. Item 1 is approval of a change order to the contract with Clean Earth Environmental for disposal of Vector spoils through December 31, 2023 in the amount of $43,500. Next is the approval of a one-year contract with Alexander Chemical Corporation for the purchase of fluorosilicic acid for the water treatment in the amount of $133,500. Next is the approval of a one-year contract renewal with AT&T for the purchase of Centrex phone services in the amount of $135,000. Next is the approval of a contract supplemental change order with SNR Technologies for powder activated carbon in the amount of $149,000, bringing the total amount of the contract to $1,057,000. Next is the approval of a contract supplemental change order with Salinas LLC for biosolids dewatering polymer in the amount of $230,000, bringing the total amount of the contract to $2,185,355.28. Next is the approval of a one-year contract with Alexander Chemical Corporation for the purchase of liquid chlorine cylinders in the amount of $235,365. Next is the approval of a contract with A1 Asphalt Incorporated for the water main break patch repair project in the amount of $274,912. Next is the approval of a contract extension with Olameter Corporation for meter reading in the amount of $294,365.13. Next is the approval of a contract with Balkema construction for the water station number 4 roof replacement in the amount of $307,000. Next is the approval of a sole source agreement with Brentwood Industries for the purchase of direct replacement equipment for wastewater primary clarifiers for the clarifier driving machinery system in the amount of $380,200. Next is the approval of an amendment to the agreement between the City of Kalamazoo and Can-Do Kalamazoo for a mixed-use business incubator, with the city providing Can-Do Kalamazoo $100,000 annually over a 3-year period for a total investment of $300,000. Next is the approval of an exchange agreement for interduct utilities between the city and 123.net Incorporated. Next is the approval of an agreement with the U.S. Department of Interior, U.S. Geological Survey for $85,332 for groundwater and surface water monitoring sites and gauge stations throughout the Kalamazoo Regional Water Supply, WSSN 03520. Next is the approval and acceptance of an easement from the Kalamazoo County Land Bank Authority for sidewalk purposes along Southworth Terrace between the previous and newly constructed sidewalk encroaches along the western edge of the property line of 1601 East Main Street. Next is the approval of the following appointments to boards and commissions and committees. The appointment of Tressa Grishak to the Environmental Concerns Committee for a term expiring on January 1, 2027. The appointment of Tony McReynolds to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term expiring on March 31, 2027. And that's it.
That is it. So, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 10 and 13 through 17. Other items that were on the agenda have been moved to the regular agenda, and one was removed. I'm looking for a motion, and that motion will include authorizing the city manager to sign all documents. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Pradel.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor Hess. Clerk Boiling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes, and I will abstain from item 16.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The items on the consent agenda are approved. Now we're on to our regular agenda. Manager Ritzma.
Yeah, item H1, first reading of an ordinance to amend certain sections of Chapter 38 of the Kalamazoo City Code to change the rates charged for drinking water to increase water system revenues, effective January 1, 2024.
And I know we do have a report on this,
Yes.
correct?
Our Public Services Director, James Baker, is here to provide you with a presentation, and looks like he's got some props with him this evening.
All right. Welcome back for another conversation about utility rates. I do want, while we're getting set up here, I want to remind people, and maybe you can help me, Manager Ritzma, there was a longer discussion of this that occurred at a committee of the whole meeting, correct? And how could someone access that if they were interested?
Yeah, I believe it was at the regular meeting.
Was it
that we
regular
had
meeting?
On the 20th, yeah. So that would be the 7 o'clock meeting.
7 o'clock meeting on the 20th?
The 20th of November.
Okay, great. Welcome, Director Baker.
Good evening, Your Honor. Thank you, City Manager, City Commissioners. Good evening. I will note I am joined tonight by our Utility Policy Committee Chair, Ms. Libby Honey-Cogswell, and I'm going to get through a number of slides here, and then Ms. Cogswell is going to actually come up here and join me as we talk a little bit about the rate recommendations and how rates are determined, and so she'll have a few words as well. So again, thank you, and we just want to go into some further discovery on some topics that we had, a very engaging discussion last time we met on November 20th. There was a lot of areas where we wanted to provide some more depth into to take perhaps a deeper dive into some of these concepts, and that so we can continue that discussion. So some of the things that we're going to be taking a little bit deeper dive on is some of our future capital project needs and just kind of talking about capital project justification. We're going to talk a little bit about those utility rates, how we determine them, and then we've got a bunch of information surrounding water affordability. Within your packets, there were a number of handouts. One of those was the water affordability report. You have that report in front of you, so we'll be referencing that as we talk through the presentation here tonight. So just talking about those capital project categories, we're really focusing on improving water quality, improving system reliability, and improving system resiliency. And how do we do that really is through a number of these projects. So, we detail out a lot of improvements to lead. There's a lot of focus on removing lead in drinking water. There's no safe level of lead. We talk about PFAS. PFAS is something that's new for us. We really haven't talked about that prior to 2018. That's something we've been dealing with for the last 5 years or so. There's going to be more impactful changes coming with PFAS as EPA lowers those levels. We're also talking about things that we're doing in our neighborhoods and in our streets to help make our communities both safer and being good community partners, as well as environmental responsibility as well. So looking at going into some depth on lead service line replacements, we started a journey in 2017 where we focused replacement on 500 lead service lines per year. That would put us on a 20-year journey to have all lead service lines replaced by 2037. We started packaging those projects in a different project delivery method and really started coming out with some bigger awards to focus on neighborhood group projects. We first coordinated lead service line replacement with local street projects, and as we found that there was greater need to do lead service work, and we found greater success with performance of lead service work if we're able to work in an entire neighborhood. So we've got all of the east side neighborhood of City Kalamazoo completed, all of the Eastwood neighborhood of Kalamazoo Township completed. We are halfway through North Side neighborhood, and we're going to continue to work through North Side and a northern part of Stewart, Douglas, and west side Kalamazoo Township, all the way out to Nichols Road, all the way north up to Mazel in 2024. It's our goal to surpass 5,000 lead service replacements. We'll pass that goal in 2024. That work is awarded, it's just not in the ground yet. So that's going to be a big milestone for us to cross. That represents our halfway point. So in 2024, we will be halfway completed with our lead service line replacement work. So that's important for Kalamazoo. It's important for a number of reasons. We have that state required completion date of 2041. However, EPA just announced their plan to require communities to replace all lead service lines in 10 years. So what does that mean? It's going to take some time for that to get promulgated into Michigan law, but if that holds its face value when promulgated, it's going to be from that year, 10 years on. So we could very truthfully find ourselves with a new deadline of 2035. That was one of the things that staff considered when we were making these recommendations to be aggressive with lead service line replacement, is that that either EGLE or EPA could enact stricter guidelines for us to meet that completion requirement. So it's in our best interest to remain aggressive on lead service line replacement. The other factor is that the current action level for lead is 15 parts per billion. There is no safe level of lead. This is not like an MCL. The recommended level for lead is 0. And how do we lower that? We lower that by getting lead service lines out of the ground. You see that our performance right now, we're at 7. Under Michigan law, that requirement that is now 15, that drops to 12 in 2025. EPA wants to see that number drop to 10. So there is increased regulation that is going to require some increased work for us and continued focus on lead service line replacement. PFAS has been something that we've been responding to since 2018 when we came out with the 70 part per trillion level. In response to that, Michigan has also enacted new PFAS levels, and we have seen some impacts here in Kalamazoo, including stations 17 and 18, which were part of our system capacity. Those stations are offline now. We do not have that capacity of those systems. And so when we lose capacity by taking stations out of play, by eliminating stations, we have to be more resilient and reliant on the stations that we do have. In terms of a capital program, that means that those stations that we have remaining need to have backup generator power. They need to have the full hydraulic range. They need to be able to treat and automate all their chemical usage, where in the past, prior to having 2 more stations, if we had a power outage, we could go and turn another station on, and that would help support the system. That has been taken away from us. Our hands are tied behind our backs in terms of using our stations. So we had 16, we now have 13. We also have known PFAS near Station 5. This is going to require treatment. We have a capital project in the capital plan to install treatment at Station 5 so that we can utilize Station 5 to its full hydraulic capacity. There's PFOA and PFOS that are shown here on the map. Station 5 would be just out of the view. You can see Rose City Motors is there with all the vehicles, but we're just outside of that. So, just to kind of talk through that PFAS response and what does that mean for Kalamazoo. We went from 70 parts per trillion as a limit. Michigan enacted 7 PFAS individual requirements that we now have to be in compliance with, and the EPA is going to lower that further. So EPA's goal for PFOA and PFOS from a legal standing MCL is going to be 4 parts per trillion for both PFOA and PFOS. Their goal, which is a non-enforceable MCL, is 0 for both of those contaminants. This table is an excerpt from our current water quality report, and it shows you've got columns all the way on the left is columns that show you what the current MCL is from Eagle. So that's the legal requirement. We have to be under that. You see the highest running annual average. That's the average of all the samples from all the stations. The results range, the ND, non-detect, to a value that's higher. That shows you what the highest range at all those stations. So you see that we're 100% compliant with all those Michigan MCLs. That's something that we're always going to make sure that we strive to ensure that we are compliant. But if you look at our current level for PFOS and our current level for PFOA, we're at 4.2 for PFOS, and we're at 2.6 for PFOA. That is going to have to get below 4 here in the future as EPA enacts those laws. And so when you look at, there could be more stations that may need treatment other than just Station 5. Kind of switching topics here, talking about water main breaks now. Water main breaks are something that is a very important topic for us. That's work we do day in and day out, on average about 100 main breaks per year. We've got a bar chart in front of you that shows typical main breaks per year. You see last year we had 111. Our recent, our highest and most recent history is 2014. There is some relationship between main breaks and the severity of winter, although not exactly. We'll note that last year, although we had 111 main breaks, we had 0 frozen services. Back in 2014, when we had 126 main breaks, we had, I don't know what the exact number is, but it was like hundreds of frozen services. So it's, we see main breaks are more in response to ground movement, not so much just, cold as, just plain cold. We do have a map to kind of help you visualize where these main breaks are occurring. So on average, 100 main breaks per year, and the main breaks are going to be kind of concentrated in this heat map. You see areas that are blue and green would be new main or main without any break history. And then as we go through the colors of yellow, orange, and red, then we get more main breaks, where red is the most main breaks. We've got 3 or more main breaks in those sections with red. That's really why we prioritize now water main replacement. This is something that's relatively new for us. This is something that we've been endeavoring upon over the last 6 years or so, as we look to coordinate kind of using that asset management plan approach. If we're going to be out reconstructing a street, we want to take a look at the water main break history, age, and material, and see if it could make sense for us to coordinate a water main replacement project with a street replacement project. We've been very successful on this with projects on Parkview, Oakland Drive, Cork Street, and then you've got another opportunity here with Ransom, Westnedge, and Whites into next year. We're halfway done with Ransom. We just announced that on Friday, crossing that halfway point. So this is great work that we want to continue to do. Another advantage of water main replacement is that aesthetic water quality aspect of it. There are sections of pipe in Kalamazoo, and certainly within this heat map area, that are what we call online pipe, where it's cast iron pipe, but it does not have a cement lining on the inside. That type of pipe is more prone to internal corrosion. You can see that photo there. There's also a sample. The city manager has what we call a cookie. That is a piece of pipe that's been cut, and you can see the interior corrosion on that. You can pass that around to the commissioners. Also in front of you here is a piece of 8-inch pipe, and that you can look inside that 8-inch pipe and see that material inside there. So that material is a corrosion material, and that can contribute to aesthetic water quality concerns. We also have, every time we have a main break, over 100 main breaks per year, families that are, attached to that main are usually on precautionary boil water advisory, which usually lasts for about 3 days. So that's something that is impacting our families, where families now for 3 days straight, if they're in a boil water advisory area, are going to have to boil their water before they consume it. That is something that is very impactful. That is also very impactful to food service establishments, or these are businesses that cook or produce or create food, like a restaurant. If a restaurant is within what we call our shutdown zone during a water main break, that can be very impactful for a restaurant. That means all the water they bring in, all the ice, all the water they use for cooking, that all has to be boiled and sanitized and follow strict health department protocol. Traffic, we just had a water main break on Portage Road in a brand new reconstructed portion of Portage Road. We were in our infancy during that time period, and we did not coordinate water main replacement with that road project. So we had that road closed for a number of days, and that road's got a not so aesthetically pleasing big concrete patch in it now. So there's expense to this as well, in addition to the frustration that folks have, that families have, that businesses have, that commuters have, and folks that use our transportation system. The other aspect is increased street and pavement life cycle. If we can keep that pavement together and uncut or uninterrupted, it's going to have a longer pavement life cycle. That section of Portage Road that we just ripped up, that's forever scarred now with this decision to not replace the water main in that street cross-section. Water replacement costs, we talk a lot about cost increases and what things have changed here in the last 2 or 3 years, and sometimes more than that. We, at one point in late 2019, we were seeing the cost of cast iron main replacement range between, depends on the bid and depends on some of the challenges of construction, anywhere from $120 to $200 a foot. We're lucky now to get bids in at $500 a foot. In fact, Balch Street, which we're under construction now, is $1,800 per foot for that main replacement on Balch Street. So that's something that we're seeing a tremendous price increase in this, over 250% increase in escalation for water main construction. Just focusing more on the work that we're doing to improve water quality. We talked a lot about optimized corrosion control and optimized water quality parameters. What is that? That's essentially saying that there's an ideal chemistry of the water. So we're talking about pH, the amount of phosphates that are in the water, and some other chemical parameters that are going to reduce and prevent corrosion. And so that's where we want to get our system to do it. And to do that, we've got to study and select what the best range of polyphosphate, orthophosphate is, and then put that into the system. So we've been doing a lot of work. We've got that optimized corrosion control product blend selected, and now we'll be working over the next 400 days, as soon as we get our permit from Eagle, to implement this strategy. So this project is actually out to bid right now, and as soon as we get those bids back and award that work, we're going to be looking at something like a 400-day window to get that completed. And that's really two primary goals of that. One is to prevent, limit, and stop corrosion. That's big when we're talking about lead. We don't want pipes to corrode. We don't want lead to leach into the drinking water. And then the other performance aspect is iron sequestration. So we want to bind up that iron and keep it in suspension so that it doesn't deposit into the mains and create acidic water quality issues. Excuse me, odor control. This is another aspect of something that we've been really focusing on. We're not under state regulation to do this work. This is something the city, through our level of service initiatives, through listening to the community, to understanding our role as a neighbor in the Northside neighborhood. This is something that we've been focusing on for a number of years now. There's been a tremendous amount of investment. There's also a tremendous amount of operational dollars that also go into making sure we're keeping the odor control system up to date and changing out carbon and things of that nature. So we wanted to share with you some of our results. So this is the performance. What you're looking at are annual average data sets from the EnviroSuite data. These green columns represent the background annual concentration of hydrogen sulfide at that location. So you see Golden Riverview, for an example, 2019, it had an annual average of 21.3. That same sensor today has an annual average of 1.4. And you can kind of see them all along Northside Association. When we first installed that monitor back in 2020, it had an annual average of 14.4. That location today has an annual average of 0.2. So you can see some tremendously positive results here where our strategies are working. We're doing the work, and we're going to keep doing that work. You see, we're not done. We want to continue this. Here's a broad community sample. These are some other sample locations that are perhaps a little bit further out, but they're reading 0 on an annual average. You can see that over 1 year, the average of all data is 0 at these locations. Again, looking at the treatment plant, for us, this is where it all starts. This is where we want to make sure that we're looking at each individualized unit process, to understand that unit process, to understand what we can do better at that unit process. This has led to our further recommendations of what we're doing now with our sludge process, where we're treating with hydrogen peroxide and with a copper salt product together to try to treat this. So this is all good work. You see a lot of success there. Again, if you look from the left bar, the extreme, to what the right bar is, you see some very good performance in that work. Kind of summarizing now capital expenditure in dollars. You see the blue column is water, the orange is wastewater, and then as they stack together, that's the total investment. The blue horizontal line represents what we fund in water. So there's over $50 million a year of need in water, documented, justified need, but we're only going to fund $26 million of that. The remaining, or the gap between what we're funding and where our need is what we seek for state and federal dollars. So, to kind of break it out this way, in water, we've got over $54 million of capital need. Through rates, the rate package supports $26 million on average of bond financing. That remaining $12.5 million plus $7 million, that remaining $18 million of gap, if you will, is going to come from the state. So that's kind of how we program out this investment. And again, this is just showing you kind of the same thing in wastewater as well. So just want to kind of pause there on the cap. We talked about capital justified, what goes into rates. I am joined by Ms. Libby Heine-Cogswell, our chair of our Utility Policy Committee. So Libby, if you could come on up.
Thank you.
Welcome, Libby. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Appreciate the opportunity. Everyone, I'm Libby Heine-Cogswell. I serve as chair of the Utility Policy Committee, and that was formed in 2021 to implement the water services agreement between the City of Kalamazoo and 7 area townships in Richland Village. I'm happy to say that the UPC is working very effectively for the water contract, and it's been very positive to sit with members of both the townships and the city side by side, rolling up our sleeves, working on issues together through the Utility Policy Committee. And I think that no doubt we're stronger working on this together. Judicious rate increases are certainly everyone's goal, while at the same time not shortchanging the system as a whole by deferring the needed improvements that will assure a safe water supply. And in that, the Utility Policy Committee has discussed for months now the proposed rate increases and unanimously supports these increases, the rate recommendation. I don't have any comment on the wastewater ordinances or fees, as that agreement with wastewater is not yet complete, but we are working certainly very hard to get that done quickly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you very much. And as you heard, there's a very detailed process that creates that rate recommendation. So when we come before you and make that recommendation for a 6% rate increase in water and a 12% rate increase in wastewater, that isn't something that we decided arbitrarily, or we're trying to pick the market, or come up with a number that we think is palatable. That it's really based on a lot of complex inputs and actual justification of rates. This is a process that the UPC started going through back in January. So we're about 10, 11 months into this work to get to this recommendation. To just kind of talk through this slide, this is kind of taking from you, in your packet you have a handout that's a utility rate report. There's also a utility rate presentation, and this kind of talks about what those inputs look like. So we take the financial plan, which is essentially the capital improvement plan, as well as the operations plan. So we've got CapEx and OpEx, as we refer to those. Those go in to kind of determine what your revenue requirements are. That's what the dollars that you need to collect as a utility. That's then looked at what the cost of service is in terms of what different units. So we have like the rates that residential ratepayers pay. We've got industrial customers. We've got fire service accounts. We've got irrigation accounts. So if you flip through that presentation from the rate consultant, you see that there's 2 bars. There's a cost and then a revenue for all these different class of service areas. And so we study those to make sure that we've got kind of a uniform approach in terms of we want to see the values are approximately equal, although they're never going to be exactly equal between all of our different revenue cost of service customer types. So multifamily, single family, residential, industrial, commercial, and everything like that. That then goes into the actual rate design. What are our coverage ratios? What is the rate of return? And I will tell you, with water rates, when we're meeting coverage ratio, there's no rate of return component. Essentially, we've met coverage ratio, so we don't collect a rate of return at that point. That goes into this, in front of you here is the Financial Asset Management System, or FAMS model, and it kind of is a way to dashboard and show you different impacts of rate increase recommendations. Across the very top line, you've got what the fiscal years are, and then it shows you kind of like a 0 year, a base year of 2022. And then in 2023, there was the 20% rate increase. That took effect in January of 2023. These recommendations in front of you today would go into effect January of 2024, so 1 year later. And then that continues out the series of rate increases into the future. You look at what our coverage ratio is for senior lien and junior lien. By policy, we have to be above 1.4. So if you actually look out there, you can see that coverage on the all-in, so that includes, that's that bottom number. You see the all-in drops below 1.4 as you pass into 2031. So there's going to, basically what that is telling us is that if nothing changes from where our budgets are operationally and for capital today, that we would recommend annual 6% rate increases through about 2030. At that point, we would have to increase and probably recommend more. Is that 7%, 7.5%? We don't know what that is today. These recommendations will change as there's different inputs and outputs that occur throughout a year, where projects actually come in at, where OpEx actually expenditures came in at, and rate recommendations are always forecast. So we're looking into the future to forecast. We don't exactly know what this is. We do know that there will be annual rate increases to support the utility moving forward. You've got some additional smaller dashboards that show you cash coverage. Those are some other things we're required to. We have to have 90 days of cash on hand as a utility. So think about this as if you're trying to make a comparison at home, we've got to be able to cover our expenses. We've got to pay our mortgage. There's a requirement for that. And then we're required to have some cash to cover emergencies. So give it a breakdown of what does that 6% get you? You know, what does that 12% wastewater get you? So in water, about 5% of that 6% rate increase is for the capital investment. 1% of that rate increase recommendation is for staffing increases and operation expense increases. In wastewater, a little bit different story. Majority of that rate recommendation is for OpEx, the operations side of it, mainly sludge. That's those sludge disposal costs. Again, we had a slide last time we showed you that sludge went from roughly $4.5 million disposal a year to $9 million disposal a year to $11 million disposal a year to $13.5 million in 2024, and then project up to $15 million. So to go from $4.5 million to $15 million in less than a 5-year period is a tremendous jump for the utility to take. And as such, we've got to make some changes from a rate increase recommendation. This chart shows you some comparisons. You know, so what Kalamazoo is not alone. I think that's the message here, is that if you look across other similar sized utilities that are being proactive, that are investing in their systems, that are well managed, well run utilities, we're not any different. You can see this is the combined water and wastewater rates for a family using 150 gallons a day on a 1-inch meter. You see that Kalamazoo, the proposed 2024 rates of Kalamazoo are lowest among that pack. And that pack includes Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, and Battle Creek. And so what that shows you is that, again, Kalamazoo, you're not alone in this. Other communities are also seeing this time as a time for investment. And I will also tell you that among these communities, their rate increase recommendations for next year are also theirs, and they range between 4%, 6%, and 9% for these communities as well. These communities may have different fiscal years from us, July 1st, for example, for Battle Creek. So they're not talking about a rate increase now. The reason they're not talking about that now is they're going to talk about that with their budget process when they move that forward in July. Some of these other communities have fiscal years that follow October. So just because other communities aren't talking about rate increases now today as we are, doesn't mean that they're not talking about them, and it doesn't mean that they don't compare to us when we look across the board. Switching gears, we're going to talk about water affordability here. I think this is certainly a very impactful topic for us. This is something we take very seriously. At no time does staff believe that folks like to pay a water bill. So I want to make sure that even though we recommend all this work and we recommend these actions, we're not going to fool you to say that we're excited about a rate increase. That's not something that we would, we understand that. I think we've got a lot of compassion with that is the point I'm trying to make there. So water affordability, we started to put the framework of a water affordability program together back in 21 and 22 and finished that work in 2023 with some final recommendations that provide what we would call a structure or an outline of a water affordability program. And that's what you have in front of you in your reports, in your printed reports there. The goals of the program are to quantify rate impacts and needed system improvement. So we want to be honest with what does the system need. And the system needs to be funded with the amount of projects and the investment to properly run the system, meet water quality and effluent discharge standards that we have to meet. We also want to quantify the local need for rate assistance. Who is in our neighborhood? What are the demographics, income demographics, and how can we help folks? We also want to identify who are current players for potential funding sources, and then review our existing internal policy and rate programs to see where we can make improvements. One of the things that we also want to be sure we focus on is common language. If we talk about water availability, what are we talking about? Water affordability, what does that mean to us? What does that mean in the context of the report? And what does that mean in the context of our community? And then basic needs as well. So in terms of water availability, what we're talking about, and this references HUD definitions for water availabilities, basically making sure that every dwelling unit has a bathroom with privacy, a wash sink with privacy with hot and cold water, a kitchen sink that has running hot and cold water, working drain, and that there's a private space to either take a shower or a bath. And so this is something that from a water availability standpoint, we want to make sure that folks have these resources as well. Water affordability, we're going to show you this as kind of the definition of it, but then also break it down and show you some tables with actual values on it. Water affordability, really what we're talking about is the cost of water does not exceed a value that is going to pull from your basic needs. So everybody's got basic needs that they've got to address to, and that we want to make sure that the cost of water doesn't pull or take away from those basic needs. So what am I saying is that the choice to pay your water bill versus eat or provide shelter, you shouldn't have to make that that differentiation. That's not not taken away from it. In terms of percent, we actually define that as 2% of your income. So you should not ever exceed 2% of your income to pay for water. And so we've got this here with the table. We show you what 2% is of federal poverty, and then those income levels go up as you go down the table. That's the actual water amount that you would be on our system for 150 gallons of water on a 1-inch meter. And then for the purpose of confidence, we scrolled that out at 9% annually. So that shows you a 9% annual rate increase, and then the water affordability matrix there in front of you. So what is that telling you? That's showing you that for our families that are at federal poverty today, they will experience water affordability burdens beginning in 2025. And that's showing us that if you have a family of 4 and you make $30,000 a year, if you will exceed 2% in water. It's actually a little bit lower number for this first group. It's 1.75%. You'll first to see a water affordability burden in 2025. For families that are 150% of federal poverty, so a family of 4 makes $45,000 a year, they will see a water affordability burden beginning in 2031. Then you see we've got kind of a green box around that 200%. So the payment arrears assistance program that we're going to be talking about, offered through Community Action Agency, that covers all families in that green box and below. So that's great news for Kalamazoo in terms of we're able to help families that are even outside of where that affordability burden would lie. Again, basic needs, just want to make sure we touch on that. It's nutritional food, it's safe and efficient housing, safe and reliable utilities, your clothing, transportation, healthcare, education, and relationships are a big point of that as well. Programs that support, we want to look at programs that support both water affordability, water availability, and basic needs. So one of the things that we haven't talked about is water availability. So here's kind of a table chart that shows all the different community partners that we can put folks in touch with that can help with if you have a sink that doesn't work or you have a plumbing line that doesn't work. We worked successfully with Community Homeworks in this year, 2023, where we were able to get a family that had a failed sewer line between their home and the main. We were able to work with Community Homeworks. That family was eligible for critical home repairs, and they got that line repaired through some community outreach and some assistance that was provided. We've also worked in the past with some of these other agencies that are listed to get folks some critical home repairs so that their sink works, so that their toilet works, so that their drain line works, and so that they're able to obtain the water that we provide. Water affordability programs is kind of looking at, what are we planning to do in 2024? One of the things that we did, and folks might start to get a postcard in the mail, so we did send a postcard out to let everybody know that there are some changes coming, and certainly that water affordability is here for you. So if you've got payment arrears right now, we encourage you to call the Community Action Agency and get signed up for payment arrears assistance. You can qualify today for that. If you're outside of those income eligibility ranges, so if your family makes more than, you're above 200% of federal poverty, give us a call. We can get you on a payment plan just internally. So that's something that we offer as well. We also have a program with Consumers Energy where we'll provide a toilet test repair kit. So we'll have a dye kit that goes in the bowl, and that color will come up in the front. And then so that means your toilet's leaking, and we'll send you a free toilet repair kit. We'll also send you free faucet aerators that will reduce the amount of flow that comes through your faucet, and low flow shower heads to help you reduce your energy usage at home. So, it's important that, as we talk about shutoffs, I know folks have a lot of concern with that. That's something that I'm sure commissioners are hearing about. One of the things that as a utility, we've got to be able to manage our revenue. We've got to make sure that we understand that there could be a separation between folks that have the availability to pay and folks that have the resources to pay. And right now we are seeing that there is some misalignment with that. Every one of these little dots on this map represents a family that is in delinquent status in 2022 when we're not doing shutoffs. You'll see that your red areas are your most poverty areas and according to income demographics at the time this material was obtained. There are a lot of dots in areas that are presenting no formal income demographics that would support that. again, this is macro data sets. I'm not making any assumptions about any families. I'll just tell you that within our total system, we do have shutoffs or delinquent account status happening at homes that do have the ability to pay. So one of the things that your report focuses a lot about are different things we can do within policy and bill payment systems to help and support the community a little bit better. So we took a hard look at that. That's something that we're going to be making some changes, and we're in the process of implementing those changes right now. One of the first things, so if you look in your report, our water bills were previously due 21 days after printing it. And we have experienced a lot of changes in mail carriers over the years. So at one time, 21 days meant you had the bill in your hand for close to 21 days, probably something like 19 days. A lot of that has changed. A lot of our mail is going up to Grand Rapids first before it comes back down here. And as a result, we understand that we want to have folks as much time as they can with that water bill. So we've changed that to 28 days. So your water bill is now due 21 days after the date as opposed to 21 days. We also now detail in color important messages on our water bills. We also list all the phone numbers for assistance right on our bills. I also note that if you're enrolled in the payment arrears program or our payment plan program, that we will not assess late fees, and we will not shut your account off. So if you have arrears right now and you're concerned about that, sign up with either Community Action Agency or the city payment plan, and if you stay current with that, we will not shut you off. This also is on every single bill. It talks about leaks, how a leak can cost money, and how they can add up. We also talk about our payment plans and extensions, and we right there, Community Action Agency, we provide the number as well as the energy efficiency number with Consumers Energy. So this is on the postcard we just mailed out, and this is on every single water bill that's going to go out after January 1st. So this is the big program we're talking about, Community Action Agency. This is something that it kind of came together under a perfect opportunity. This is a grant awarded by the state of Michigan and implemented through Community Action Agency for Kalamazoo and all of our partner communities. Everybody's eligible if you're 200% or below of federal poverty, and we're going to start to set up kind of walk-in clinics so folks can come in, sit down with us, and we can process you in these kind of one-on-one environments. It's our goal to have locations that are out in the townships and also have locations in the city so that we can kind of meet folks where they are. We have successfully landed, if you will, a spot with City of Portage. So we've got a location in City of Portage where we're going to be starting immediately. And we've got some other locations in the townships where we're going to be starting up. And of course, we're still working through some locations in the city. One of the site restrictions is that we've got to have some significant IT infrastructure at the site where we're at, because we're going to be using printers. Your information is going to get processed through. So it's our goal to meet you where you're at, bring folks in, and we'll process you through. So more to come on that. As we get that information, we're going to be rolling that out there. But it's definitely some in-person networking in the community. And again, just kind of summarizing everything we do for water affordability and just kind of outreach and helping the customers. Give us a call. If you've got any concern with your water bill, give us a call and keep you off that shut-off list. Just wanted to hit some updates to this. So last time we met, which was on the 20th, this value at the bottom was $23.1 million. We found some more money. It's now $28 million. So we're almost $30 million that we're bringing in 23 and 24. So that's, again, great news. These are dollars that are leveraging. They don't stand on their own. They come to us because we're putting dollars forward, and they're able for us to accelerate our work and our investments in our neighborhoods and all those great areas that we talked about. Next steps will be coming forward in your next meeting on the 18th for final reading, and then we also have a wastewater resolution that's going to be coming forward, and we'll also have another item which would give the City Commission the amended water services agreement. So the system capacity buy-in fee requires an amendment to the water services agreement. So that new language in that water services agreement will come forward to the City Commission for signature. So with that, Mayor, I will turn it back over to your City Commission.
Thank you once again, Director Baker. I really appreciate the depth that you do go into when you're talking about this. This is a complicated thing, and I think you break it down in a way that makes it at least on the edge of being understandable to the layperson. So that's very helpful. Questions for Director Baker at this time from Commission? What's that? You got more comments and questions? Just questions for Director Baker at this time, then we'll start with that. Okay. Vice Mayor Hess.
Thank you, Director Baker. A few things. How much of our needs and are going to be addressed as we move further into the climate crisis? I mean, is the climate crisis informing any of this, or could we exponentially explode with costs should it worsen? And where are we in terms of Michigan and Southwest Michigan with our water supply and safety of it?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's I would categorize that question as an overarching resiliency question. You know, as we look at the climate crisis, you know, what does that mean to us? It means changes in weather patterns. There's more frequent severe weather that is happening. If we look back at the ice storm that impacted Kalamazoo probably more severely than anybody in the state of Michigan, we saw that there's a very important need to have generators at all of our stations. So that's something that's in this capital plan, is to have generators at all those stations. We also look at there's changes that need to be made in wastewater. We talked a lot about that with sludge. We talked last meeting on the 20th. We talked about all the work that we're doing to identify a new sustainable solution for wastewater sludge. I didn't go into the detail on that tonight, but that is a very big lift and a very big priority that we're going to have to manage. It's in the capital program. It is reflected in the capital program, but it's something that we haven't necessarily assigned a full rate impact to. So that's something that a lot of that's because that's still somewhat unknown. But to continue to throw $13 million away in the trash on your sludge is not a recommendation that we're going to continue to make. And so there's more work to come in that. I will say that as you further explore our sustainability plan and our water and wastewater utilities and how we align with the city's sustainability plan, there are many opportunities for some positive investment, many opportunities for us to hit some mutual goals together. So we have a lot of mutual goals, and there's a lot of ways for us to achieve them together, but there is work to be done, and a lot of that work is going to occur, probably in 6 to 10 years out, as opposed to 1 to 5 years out.
Okay, thank you. And so in this city, which is rich with educational opportunities, you have just provided us and those watching with huge education about water and need for it and why we need that. And I can see moving forward to educate all of our citizens about the need is important. You talked about postcards. Are there any other opportunities that you're looking at besides mailings and the centers that we're talking about to reach the people?
Yeah, certainly. So some of the work In terms of communication, we're working with the city's communication director, Mr. Mike Smith, to really, continue to push communications out. We did record some radio advertisements, so some of those will be playing, just trying to connect just the concepts of what we pay and the investments that we make. There is a connection there. Celebrating some of the work we're doing, that 5,000th lead service line replacement, that's a big win for the city of Kalamazoo. That's something that you can be very proud of. And just that overall utility education, something that we take a lot of pride on. We've constantly are giving tours in both the wastewater treatment plant and the drinking water plant. That's open for anybody who's interested. We just had a group of about 15 Latino Student Association from Western Michigan University that came through the wastewater treatment plant. All very excited. All future city managers, they're all planners, so that's a great group there. And something that we do every year is our Public Services Week. So again, in May next year, I know May is a long time from where we sit today, but let's not forget to come out, and our facilities will be open for an entire week. Come ask questions, see the processes, walk for yourself around the treatment plant, smell the improvement. It's in the air. You can tell there's a marked difference in what the plant smells like, and there's a tremendous amount of improvement that's happening.
Thank you. I know that since in the 4 years I've been on commission, we've been making these improvements every year. I appreciate your attention to detail and your willingness to share that with us. And I have here, I don't know if you're going to go into it, but my little booklet for careers in water. I'm retired, but maybe some of my friends would like a career in water. Are these available everywhere? And how can I get this out to my constituents?
Yeah, so right now, we purchased about 150 of those pamphlets. We've been passing them out at every one of our public education events. We set up at Com University with a football game. We set up, had a tent, and we were passing those out. We passed those out at Public Services Week. It's an important, perhaps, message that all this work that we're talking about in terms of capital investment, that work, is jobs. That's something that most people are very proud of when they talk about that. That's something that the Kalamazoo City Commission can be proud of too. There's 169 union workers in public services. That's a lot of jobs. In addition to that, we don't self-perform all of this capital. We're supported also by contractors. And again, the City Commission has a local incentive for contractors. So local contractors are incentivized to get bids ahead of outside area contractors. So that is something that, as we talk about capital investment in water and wastewater, we also want to talk about job opportunities and what that could mean for our Kalamazoo residents.
Thank you so much, Director Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes. Other questions from commissioners for Director Baker at this time? Question, Commissioner Decker? All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Baker, for that. I just had a question, maybe a few. Nobody likes to increase water rates. But is there anything that's coming down the pipeline, or what is really making us increase these? Is it because we have more construction going on, more building? Is it because of state regulations? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really that's a very high level observation, and it really kind of comes back to where we are today as a utility and where we have to go in terms of our goals and where our goals are taking us in terms of regulatory compliance. We've got to make these investments. And so when I started off that first slide about the capital investment, all of that capital investment is tuned to kind of get us to where we're headed for a goal of, no lead services by 2037, replacing cast iron main in coordination with street projects, implementing PFAS treatment, and extending water mains out in our township areas that where folks are impacted, by PFAS contamination in residential wells. So it's a whole bunch of many projects that there's many projects that take to increase water quality, to complete and combat all the lead in the community, the PFAS, everything all together. So when you package that all up, it creates certainly some rate pressures. And I'd also say that folks that have been in our community for a number of years, going back to, we've got a slide that shows that capital investment going back to 2015, and you see that these numbers are order of magnitude different between what they look like. There's a reason for that, and that really comes back to the changes in regulation, the changes in the regulatory landscape in the state of Michigan are fundamentally different today than they were in 2015. We weren't talking about lead service line replacement in 2015. We weren't talking about any date certain. In fact, we didn't achieve that goal until 2017. And I remember briefing the City Commission at the time in 2017 on how much lead service replacement we had been doing, which was a lot. There's a lot of great work that was happening, but then to move from just doing the work to date certain, we're going to have it 100% completed by this date, and how many do we have to have per year? We had to go from where the performance had been to over 500 per year, and that was a dramatic change in where our investment had been. The price tag for that was over $5 million a year. Our current goal for 800 lead service line replacements per year, that price tag is $8 million a year. We talk about PFAS. We didn't really talk about PFAS before 2018. Before 2018, our ability to measure it stopped at parts per billion. In 2018, science expanded, and our abilities were able to reach down to parts per trillion. So 1 part per billion is 1,000 parts per trillion. So in 2018, we have non-detects everywhere. That really was a change in how we're able to measure that. And you can see from 2018 to now how far we've come with PFAS. In addition to all that, changes in Michigan's regulatory perspective on how water systems are managed has changed dramatically as well. And then just market factors. We talked about water main price used to be $120 to $150 a foot. We don't have that cost anymore. We have the $500 a foot. We have mulch at $1,800 a foot. So we can't go back in time. We can't go back to 2015 and have those prices that we did then. We have to deal with the prices that we have today, and we have to deal with the regulatory landscape that we have to deal with today.
Thank you for that. And, on our consent agenda today, we just approved $307,000 to do some work at Station 5. What does Station 5 measure? What specific things does Station 5 measure that kind of coincides with the work that we're doing today?
Yeah, correct. Actually, I was misspoken earlier. So the commission item that you just approved was a roof at Station 4, but that same contractor is doing structural repairs at Station 5. And so, and there's similar scope and price. We're spending about $300,000 on a contract at Station 5 for structural repairs. You just approved Station 4 for a new roof, and it's the same contractor that's doing that work. At Station 4, that roof is a buried roof. It's actually, that station's buried in the side of the hill, so the whole hill's got to come off, and then a new roof's got to go on. So it's really an involved process. At Station 5, we've got in the capital plan new PFAS treatment at Station 5, like we talked about. We also have iron and manganese removal at Station 5. We've got to have those first before we're able to do the PFAS removal. And so that work is planned, but completion of that work is still probably 5 years out. So we had to invest dollars at Station 5 as it sits to rehab the masonry structure. The bricks are actually falling off the building. So we're going to do some masonry repairs with some structural steel repairs, just making sure the station can run and function for another 5 years before we can build its replacement. Station 5, for the record, has been operational since 1914 and is just now getting completely rehabbed and then replaced. So it has lasted for well over 100 years.
Thank you. If you have these numbers, if you can think of them in your mind, because I know you've done some research, can you tell us where Kalamazoo right now stands with what we charge for water, say compared to Battle Creek or Grand Rapids?
Yeah. So we actually have a slide that kind of shows that journey. So it's in your slide. I don't have the numbers here, but Kalamazoo is shown on the far left as the lowest. And then you have Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, and Battle Creek that are higher. I wouldn't say that, I didn't put these up here to poke at these communities. These are great communities. These are great systems. These are very well-managed communities that have very well-respected programs within the state of Michigan that are tackling issues with capital investment. These communities are proactive in lead replacement, and these communities are proactive with improving water quality. So I want to make sure that, that we take that into perspective too.
Just one last question. I know I've had a lot of individuals reach out regarding how often we don't bill. Right now, we are on a quarterly system. In order to make it more budgetable for our community residents, what would we as a city and you and your department have to do to really get us to a monthly billing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's something that I think everybody would like to get towards. When we talk about budgets or family budgets, it's often monthly budgets that we talk about, and it would certainly help to have a lower monthly bill as opposed to the quarterly bill that comes just 4 times a year. So that's something that's certainly a goal of ours. That's something we're looking at and trying to kind of behind the scenes create a plan to roll that out. One of the things that's going to have to happen is there's going to have to be more investment in smart meters. We currently have about 50,000 accounts, and we've got about 7,500 of those accounts are currently smart meter accounts. So that's something that we're going to be looking to bring some partnerships forward. We're going to look to continue to make some more recommendations on getting more smart meters out into the system. The advantage with that, with a smart meter program, is those smart meters can do that meter reading work for us, and they send us that information in real time. And so once we have that information where the smart meters are just broadcasting that into us, we can go to any kind of bill period that makes sense. The challenge with where we're at right now, we actually send meter readers out. So for us to try to manage a monthly program, we would need a dramatic increase of meter reading, of physical meter reading that goes out. So that's one of the improvements that we want to make.
Just one more question, and then I'll be done. So if we do not increase rates at this time, what would we have to increase them to next year if we did? Or the year after that? Are you talking about right now it's at 6% for the water. If we don't do this increased rate next year, would we have to raise it by 10%, 12%, or how would that? Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
So yeah, just to kind of talk into that, I just want to provide some ground rules, if you will, that if the city commission were absolutely not able to come to terms with a water and wastewater rate increase, the budget has to be balanced. So there would have to be layoffs of staff. There would have to be projects that absolutely didn't get done, and you would probably risk permanent compliance and some violations, not to mention all the good work that we do with filters and everything else. So that's kind of an all or nothing approach. But perhaps if that were to happen, the math behind it it's not a static linear response. So you don't just get to take 6% in 2024 and put in 0 and everything's going to work out. You would have a significant penalty that you would have to recoup from that, likely double digit in the next year. So if you're unable to come to terms with a 6% rate increase recommendation for 2024, you could likely see something like a 15 or 17% increase for 2025. And then that's just how the dollars work out. It's like your use your like retirement account. If you don't put the money in early, it's going to take not double, but much more than that to catch up. Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Cooney.
2 questions. One is with the 10-year requirement that the federal government put out there. They're putting significant money out there. I think about half of what they estimated would cost. So I'm presuming that we'll go after that, right? For sure.
Oh, certainly. And we've been extremely aggressive and extremely successful in obtaining those dollars. You know, that last slide where I show you the $28 million that we've been able to bring in 23 and 24. A lot of that is because we've been aggressive and we've been able to match. That seems to be the way it comes in. If we've got the match, then we're able to do the project. So we would imagine that those dollars would probably come in the same fashion.
The second question I had is, I'm not sure about this, but I thought I heard that there were scientists in Grand Rapids who had come up with this strategy to get rid of PFAS. Did you hear anything about that?
So yeah, there are some emerging technologies that we're following on some different treatment strategies. Some of those include foam fracturization, where they fracture the foam at a supercritical temperature. There's also some other process such as supercritical water oxidation that can do that work. There are some technologies out there. The challenge is that these technologies are either what we call a lab scale or small bench scale. They're not able to do the 3 to 5 million gallons a day at a water plant, or something like at our wastewater plant, 27 million gallons a day.
Right.
In fact, at the Great Lakes Water Infrastructure Conference that was hosted here in Kalamazoo this year, we met a couple different scientists and PhD researchers that had some different processes that they were looking at. And we're very engaged with folks like that. We're very engaged with that kind of information, but it's nothing that we see right now.
Right. We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. The main treatment components would be GAC, which is granular activated carbon, ion exchange are kind of the top leading, and then there's some other things like reverse osmosis, depending on membrane size, that would also treat PFAS as well.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pradel. Thank you, Commissioner Cooney.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. This question for you, I'm just going to compare your budgeting process to like what it's like for us as families, and how we budget for our household. So there was this article that went out by Bloomberg at the end of November, and they listed out, and the title of the article is "Just How Bad is the U.S. Cost of Living Squeeze?" Okay, so I'm going to read off some things that we as families are facing with inflationary pressure since they had since January 2020. So natural gas up 29%, car insurance up 33%. Used car prices up 35%, electricity up 25%, groceries up 25%, rent up 20%. And one of the things that I think is important for people to realize is that a lot of these costs that we face, we might get a bill in the mail, or we might go to a store and have a receipt, and at the end of the day, the goal of those entities is to profit, right? Their goal is to make money. They're for-profit businesses. Our utility system is you get what you pay for, basically, right? And then I wanted to move to some of the inflationary pressures that we faced as an entity, the bills that we have to pay to make our work happen. Cast iron water mains, 250%. Sludge removal, 325%. So in 2020, we were paying $4.5 million. Fast forward to this next budget cycle, $13 million. I mean, we're just talking 3 or 4 years here. 325%. Chemicals, so the chemicals we put in the water to keep it safe and remain in compliance. In that same period, approximately $2 million to $5 million. So we got to pay our bills just like we have to in our household. But we're talking about, you look at the inflationary pressures that we're facing as families and just individuals, talk about the inflationary pressures that municipalities and these utility systems have to come up, not even talking about the compliance regulations and the staffing required to keep all those things. I mean, that is mind-boggling. So I'm just wondering if you can speak to that a little bit.
No, I think that you did a great job to kind of put that into perspective. One just additional point is that we have to buy all that other stuff too. We've got to buy gas, electricity. We spend over $2 million a year with the electric bill just at the wastewater treatment plant. So we're paying those increases as well. And we've had some very acute, very sharp increases in some very critical things that we do, such as cast iron main replacement, the sludge disposal, the chemicals. We've got to manage all of that. And, with respect of consumers price index, or CPI, or the inflation, we understand families are struggling. Us, on the other hand, we actually are more responsive to producers' price index because we're buying those bulk raw materials and inputs that we then produce clean, safe drinking water, deliver to 196,000 people, families across all these many different jurisdictions. And then we receive 27 million gallons a day of wastewater at the wastewater treatment plant that we process and clean and make sure that it's safe for the community and safe for the environment. So there is a real challenge, and certainly, I kind of let off talking about, I don't think like a rate increase is, a good thing, that people should just deal with it. I've got a lot of empathy for families that I think everyone's struggling. Regardless of what you're buying, you're paying a lot more for it. And as a utility, we are too. Some additional points are that this utility funds itself. We don't receive any dollars from general fund. There's no tax dollars that go to the water and wastewater utility. It's completely funded by rates. And those rates fund all that great work that we're talking about.
Kind of going along those lines as well, it's a couple of things. I'm impressed with the work that you guys are doing. I listed off those 3 examples, but the work that you're doing to try to cut down those costs. So like the water main replacement, you recognize that the lead time that it was taking to get those and how much astronomically those prices of water main were going up. So you got super creative, and you and your team, you bundled and bought it all in advance to try to save money and make sure that you had a stash of it before there was scarcity or before there was further price jump. The sludge removal. I mean, it's exciting to see you guys are actually creatively trying to figure out a way to basically suck out more water so that we're not shipping water on trucks. So effectively the idea is it's kind of like a Tide Pod. Instead of you shipping giant bottles of laundry detergent that are mostly water, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to ship little packets that don't have water in them. And so that's kind of what you're doing with the creativity with sludge, is trying to figure out how to make that more economical to ship. You talk about the chemicals and the same deal, trying to get creative about how you kind of bundle or do that work as well. I just wanted you to maybe speak a minute to just the ways that you're trying to be good stewards of ratepayers' dollars to make it as affordable as possible as you possibly can, and also with the lens of thinking to the future so you can save people money potentially in the future.
So I'm just advancing the slide here to talk about the cost of water main replacement. So yeah, that's one of the things. So back in 2022, the city commission approved, it was about $6.5 million of cast iron pipe that we purchased back then for projects that we're implementing through 23 and 24. So Ransom, we were actually able to be successful with that Ransom Street project and get it to keep it on schedule because the city commission approved the water main purchase for Ransom back in 2022. one of the projects that we talk about is the graphic packaging pipe reroute, where the wastewater treatment clarifier from graphic packaging, the route that the pipe currently goes through has got a lot of turbulence in it, and it creates, an opportunity for aerosolization and off-gassing. So we've got a project designed to build a whole new pipeline and address all those issues with turbulence and the hydraulics. We bought that pipe. That pipe is sitting at the wastewater treatment plant ready to go in the ground. So we're doing things proactively to keep projects on schedule, to keep, to the extent possible, to keep projects on budget, and, more importantly, to be able to deliver these projects to the community that relies on them. Another thing that we're doing, we have a lot of success with it, just recently in Millwood, is pipelining. So we were able to kind of pivot with cast iron main replacement with structural cast in place pipelining, and we just completed a project in Millwood. That project actually, we just received an award for that through the American Public Works Association regional chapter of one of the most innovative projects from a design and American Waterworks perspective. So that's something where that example, that tuberculated pipe down in front of you that's contributing to acidic water quality issues, with that project in Millwood, we were able to line that pipe, basically build a new plastic pipe that's designed and safe for drinking water inside that pipe for a cost of about $200 a foot. So pivoting to pipelining has enabled us to try to go back and save and get towards those 2019 dollars. There's going to be another project coming out next year. You'll probably see it in the spring, where we're going to do that same type of work that we did in Millwood over in Knollwood. If you look at this water main break map, this area right here, all that red is Knollwood. So that can provide a new structural liner inside that pipe, prevent the breaking, address the acidic water quality issues, and we can do it through lining at a reduced cost. Now that's not the answer for every project. There are some limitations to that, but the engineering team is a great resource that they're constantly looking to deliver the work that we've got to do, but to do it in the most economic way possible.
Can you go back to that slide? This is the last one. Go back to that slide with the blue line. And while he's pulling that up, that Millwood project, so they basically create like an exoskeleton of the piping. So your water lines for like 2 or 3 months were above ground in the road. They had to actually create like bump overs on the roadways and on every driveway. So for like 2 or 3 months, every resident was getting their water through above ground pipes that were feeding into their hose bib, like where the hose goes. And so, I mean, while they're like relining the pipes, you're getting water through an exoskeleton, basically piping system. And then once they repipe the lines, then they pump it back through those lines. And then in the same time, they got new fire hydrants too. So really cool project. It was neat to see that happen. So you look at that blue line. So effectively, like everything above that blue line there, say if we didn't have those, I mean, I think of that, like the time period that we're in is kind of this golden window of opportunity, because you have ARPA dollars, federal infrastructure dollars, state and federal competitive grant opportunities that are available right now that will probably never be here again. And so everything above that blue line, effectively, if that didn't exist today, how would we pay for those things? I mean, it would effectively be rate increases or debt, right?
It would either be, and then the $26 million is debt finance.
Yeah, right,
so
right.
That is debt. It would either be not done and kind of pushed off to next year and pushed off to next year and pushed off and reprioritized, or we'd have to get more serious on where we want to be with rate increases. So it's a bit of an iteration, if you will, but again, there's a lot of opportunity here, and what we're seeing is that we've been successfully able to reach across that horizontal blue line and grab a lot of that blue above it through some really competitive opportunities with State Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund and the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Prado. Other questions for Director Baker? Commissioner Decker? No more questions? Okay. Anyone else? Okay at this point? All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Now is the opportunity for anyone who's here in the chambers to make a comment on this item. Just a reminder, it's a long time since we talked about what the actual item is that we're going to be involved with this evening. What we are doing this evening, what's our H1 on a regular agenda, is a first reading of an ordinance to amend certain sections of Chapter 38 of the Kalamazoo City Code to change the rates charged for drinking water to increase the water system revenues effective January 1st, 2024. So that actually will be a motion to offer for first reading at this meeting. That's what we're doing. Any comments from anyone here in the chambers on this particular item? Don't see anybody coming forward. Then, at this point, the recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading. Commissioners, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Decker. Discussion, Commissioners. Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. No one likes raising rates. But when you kind of see and pay attention to what's coming down, especially in the House and in the Senate, water rates or wastewater rates, regardless, they are starting to put in more regulations of things that we are going to have to abide by. And I think that us doing this now is definitely going to save us a lot more money and heartache in the future. Again, it's not something that we take lightly up here. It's a lot of money, you know, individuals are struggling as it is. But having the report done by Preen and Newhoff, I was kind of reading through it as I was sitting here. And I think the steps that we're taking with CAA is definitely steps in the right direction. So I encourage, as Director Baker did, please reach out to Public Works and set up a payment plan. Also, please reach out to CAA. They are located on Westnedge, I think right across the street from Slap and Chicken it was. I know they would love to have you come there and to utilize these funds. And also, I know Director Baker is also working on other areas where we can have a one-stop shop where community action will be there and Public Works will be there. So anyone that needs help with their water bills can come in one spot and be able to get your questions answered and to be able to sign up for the program. So that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Other discussion? Commissioner Praedel.
Sure. I also wanted to thank Director Baker for his time and putting in and helping us all, kind of understand why this matters and why we're doing this and recommending these rate increases. It is really difficult and challenging to increase rates. We know, families are struggling a lot, and it's gotten progressively worse over recent years. And I don't think it would be palatable had not they come forward and been so proactive to say, hey, we want to make sure that there are some resources in our community available so that those people who are going to be disproportionately impacted by these higher rates have the ability to go somewhere to get some help. And before the affordability plan, they already had these partnerships with Consumers Energy that were trying to find ways to make their homes more water efficient, to save people on water bills as well, and pinpointing maybe areas there could be leaks and that sort of thing. So I really thank them for hearing us, even last year, to make affordability a priority and making sure that there are resources when we have to make these difficult decisions. It's one of those things that it's probably one of the more difficult decisions that we have to make because we know people in our community are struggling to pay their bills. But we also know that the pain that we're feeling today with these rates is nothing compared to the pain that we're going to feel down the road if we don't get serious about tackling some of these issues. And that's the reality that I'm looking at, is because, again, I want to make sure that my children and their children's children don't have perpetual rate increases and have a safe, healthy infrastructure here in our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Praedel. Commissioner Vice Mayor Hess.
Thank you. Yes, today at the Committee of the Whole meeting, we had a presentation on housing, and some of our housing issues that we're facing today are because of a lack of investment in the prior decades. That is happening here as well. And so we're at a point where we really need to have investment in our critical infrastructure. And we don't do this through a scarcity mindset. We have to invest in the infrastructure of our community through an abundance mentality, that this is, that we invest in it, that this is an investment in our children's children and in future generations, so that we don't have to come back to the table as we are right now. And I believe Director Baker has made the case. I believe that he is sincere in his compassion and his care for the need in our community, but also for those who are hurting in our community, as is Commission's. I had an awareness today. I have a leaky kitchen faucet, and so I'm thinking I had the great privilege of being able to read prior and knowing that this is going to happen. We can't afford water. We have to realize that water is precious to us, and so I called and ordered my new faucet. But at the end of the day, I think we really have to ask ourselves, what is clean, safe drinking water worth? Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hess. Other comments or discussion? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate all of us getting to participate in this session, discussing these issues, which obviously are very, very important to all of us. Just a reminder, from my perspective, is that we don't make any profit on this. This is something we all own. This is a shared ownership model. And so when we're chipping in, we're paying for the cost of the operation of these two systems. And, we talked a little bit about, the 6% and the 12% and what, are there extra things that we're doing that, we don't need to do, that we don't need to be paying for. But once again, we saw on the slides, and I think this is part of our packet that's online. Is that correct, City Manager? So anyone who wants to bring up every one of these slides and deep dive into this, it's available as part of our commission packet online. And 12% on wastewater, 7 of that 12 is increased costs for all the things we talked about. It's not choice expenditure items. These are just things that are costing us more money. 4% capital investment. Well, do we want to stop making capital investments in terms of making sure there are less airborne particles that come out of our systems over at the wastewater treatment plant? I don't think we want to do that. I think we want to keep moving ahead and making sure we're doing a good job there. And then on the 6% on the water side, yes, 5%, we're talking about capital investment of the 6, but big capital investment, lead water line replacement? Is that something you want to say, well, I don't know, it doesn't seem so important, let's put that off a little bit? No one here is going to is comfortable with that kind of decision, and maybe the time frame is going to speed up even more. So it's, I guess the last thing I just want to say about it is that I know there's a lot of things that grab our attention and all the things that we care a great deal about doing. Had a very important report from KidNet, and we're able to do there for young people. But if you strip everything back, I think you would almost identify the singular most important thing we do for each other here, which is the basis for having a lifestyle that we do, and the health that we do is provide clean water and wastewater treatment. Strip everything away. And that's one of the most important things we do for each other. I've mentioned this before, but often hear it said that, it wasn't just having a medical profession around that has contributed to the kind of health that we experience. It's having plumbing, which changes the kind of life we can live here. So I just want to thank everybody on the team for all the great work and all the attention, not being cavalier in the least about this, caring, working on this affordability plan, which obviously is intended to help those who are struggling and can't pay. So thank you for all that. Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes, and guess what? This is the last time we'll be talking about this because it's going to be on our next meeting agenda. Now, we have added several items to our regular agenda, and they were sort of called out at different times, so I don't know if you have an order. I wrote an order in here, so which one are we getting to next?
We'll do G11 first.
We'll do G11, okay.
So that's adoption of a resolution setting a public hearing on January 2, 2024 to consider the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget for the city of Kalamazoo.
Okay, thank you very much. I know that you weren't prepared to make a big budget presentation this evening, but there was a request from somebody here in the chambers to move that from our consent agenda. This is basically, we're just setting a public hearing for our budget, and that public hearing will occur on January 2nd. The budget is out there. It's online. It's available for anyone to look at, and it was provided to us as required in the charter by December 1st. So thank you, Manager Rissman, for that. Does anybody have any questions about that at this point, this action? Commissioner Pradle?
Yeah, I just thought it would be worth just sharing if people want to learn more about the budget, where they go to on the website. I believe it's just kalamazooCity.org/budget. And then also we have a work session coming up on the budget as well. I believe that's a week from today. Correct. Yeah.
Any questions for Manager Rissman? Okay. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to comment on this item?
Good evening, Jeff Messer, city resident. A few of the things I wanted to say have just been addressed. Chris mentioned that there's an upcoming work session on the budget, and he also mentioned on the budget is available online right now at kalamazooCity.org/budget. But I'm just going to read what I prepared. It's December, and I'd like to call to the public's attention the fact that every year in December, January, the City Commission conducts the public portion of its annual budget process. The schedule is established by the city charter. Section 67 requires the city manager to provide a proposed budget to the city commission by no later than December 1st. Section 68 requires the city commission to approve an annual budget by no later than February 1. Manager Ritzma has complied with his duties under Section 67, and the proposed budget is now available for public review on the city's website at kalamazooCity.org/budget. Open the city budgets drop-down and click 2024 proposed budget. The agenda item presently before us sets a public hearing for this budget to be held during the regular City Commission business meeting on the first Tuesday in January, that being the day after New Year's Day. However, that won't be the public's only opportunity to provide feedback on the 2024 budget. 2 weeks later, during the City Commission's regular business meeting on the third Tuesday in January, that being the day after MLK Day, the budget will be considered for final approval. The public can provide feedback at that time, but with the February 1 deadline approaching, the Commission is unlikely to make any changes, and I suggest people get involved in the process during December. A few of the City Commission's advisory boards will be reviewing portions of the budget in December, and the public can participate in those meetings as well. This Thursday, the Planning Commission will be asked to review the 2024 Capital Improvement Plan, which is a 5-year plan for major, non-recurring physical expenditures such as land, building, public infrastructure, and equipment. On the third Monday this month, the Downtown Development Authority will be approving their annual budget. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meets tomorrow, but I see nothing on their agenda about reviewing the Parks Department budget. The only related item on their agenda is a special presentation about the Parks Master Plan. In addition to all these meetings, members of the public can also provide feedback on the budget by simply emailing commissioners at their official addresses. So my last section was just a question about are there going to be any special budget meetings? Chris already addressed that. So other than the public hearing on January 2nd, the final approval on January 16th, the special budget meeting, will there be any further budget discussion during the committee of the whole meetings between now and then, or anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, do you want to answer that, Manager Ritzman?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Messer, for laying that out for everyone. Appreciate that. Just one correction to your information, and you wouldn't know this, but the next meeting, the commission will be adopting the calendar for next year, 2024, and it's been requested that the second meeting in January be moved to January 22nd, which is the fourth Monday of January, just because there's also activities on the day after MLK Day. So it'll be the 22nd of January for the actual adoption of the budget.
Thank you, Manager Ritzman. And I don't think, other than our budget meeting, we're not having a committee of the whole set-aside time. Is that correct, Manager Ritzman?
What was the question?
In addition to the budget meeting, where there's not an additional committee of the whole work on?
Right, unless we need it.
Okay.
You know, from next week's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no more comments, the recommended action is a motion to approve the resolution for first reading. No, just approve the resolution, setting the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Hess. Supported by Commissioner Cooney. Any further discussion on that? All right, Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pradle?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney? Yes. Commissioner Decker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Manager Ritzma.
Item G18 is approval of the minutes from the City Commission meetings on November 20, 2023.
All right, Commissioner Pradle?
There was just a minor error where it referenced two vice mayors, which cannot exist. So that was just a minor error that I was just going to correct. And then there was just, during my public comment to the November 20th meeting, there was just a way something was worded was kind of not intended, but came across not well. And so I just wanted to clarify what I meant to say. And so Scott put together kind of a draft on our tables there with the changes in red.
All right, so would you like to, since everyone doesn't necessarily have this?
Sure. So again, there was just the error about mentioning two vice mayors in one
Yes.
line, which is not possible. And then there was a line where it said, Commissioner Pradle stated the issues facing the City Commission in 2023, such as anti-Semitism, were amazing. I would not characterize anti-Semitism as amazing.
Right.
So he changed it to read, Commissioner Pradle stated it was shocking to think that the City Commission was facing issues like anti-Semitism in 2023. And he stated the Commission would be an example for how people with different ideas could work together in a time of polarization, which I felt was a better characterization of what I was trying to say.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I believe every commissioner has that wording in front of them also. Okay, so any other discussion about that? Approving the minutes?
I was just going to say this is just a good example of why when you see the minutes are before you, it's worth looking because,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something very embarrassing that could come back to haunt you when we're all long and gone. So.
Yeah. And generally speaking, the clerk does a fabulous job with that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Is there anyone in the chambers who'd like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from this, as amended from the City Commission meeting on November 20th, 2023?
So moved.
Good. Motion made by Commissioner Wilson.
Support.
Okay, supported by Commissioner Decker. Any other discussion? Good, commission members? All right. Clerk Barland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney? Yes. Commissioner Decker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The minutes are approved. Next item, Manager Ritzma.
Item G19 is adoption of a resolution vacating Cooley Street between Eleanor Street and West Kalamazoo Avenue and vacating Eleanor Street between North Westnedge Avenue and North Park Street.
All right.
So
Thank you. Yes.
I'd like our Assistant City Planner, Bobby Durkee, to come forward and give the Commission some updates on this requested action.
Welcome, Mr. Durkee. Thanks for hanging in with us here.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, Manager Ritzma, Mayor Anderson, and Commission. Within the packet, there was an error identified in the resolution by the applicant in regard to the price of the vacated streets. The financial impact section, you'll notice, gives two prices for each street, one with easements and one without easements. Underneath both of the roads are water, storm, and sanitary utilities, which will require an easement when the property is vacated, since the utilities will still be there, and an access easement will be needed for the parking lot at 411 West Kalamazoo Ave. So those utilities would not be removed at the time if approved. There's 60 days by policy for the applicant to provide payment to the clerk's office. So since they would still be there, the easements would be in place, and the price should have been the price with easements, not without easements. So the updated resolution was provided, and we wanted to make sure that that was made apparent.
Questions for staff? Yeah. Commissioner Decker.
So the MOU so what we have in front of us has the correct amount then, correct? 86 and 201?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
86,000 for Cooley and 201,000 for Eleanor.
Thank you.
Otherwise, then there are no other changes from the resolution that was in the packet.
That is correct.
They're just dollar amounts that recognize an easement being present. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. In the looking through the packet, the applicant identified it and emailed staff this weekend. So we wanted to make sure it was corrected. So it was sent out Thursday with that price. So now the resolution provided today has the accurate price.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Durkee here? All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now is the opportunity for anyone in the chambers to comment on this item. Seeing no one, so we're talking about postponing until December 18th, correct? You want to talk about that just a little bit, Manager Ritzma?
Yeah, so the way street vacation works, requires a two-meeting process. So it's, in essence, presented tonight like a first reading, and then the actual vacation action would take place on the 18th of December.
So in essence, it's a first reading tonight. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the resolution vacating Cooley Street and Eleanor Street and West Kalamazoo Avenue. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Pradel. Further discussion? I'm sorry.
Motion should be to postpone, not to adopt.
Okay. So, all right. So how do you want me to frame that motion then, Clerk Barling?
Motion.
So it's on the agenda, adoption of resolution vacating.
Right. And the action, the motion should be to postpone consideration of a resolution.
Okay. So we're moving to not do anything tonight and letting everybody know about that. All right. So are people who made that motion then comfortable with that motion?
Yes, so moved with
Okay.
a postponement.
All right.
Support that.
All right. Thank you so much. Any further discussion? Thank you. Clerk Barling, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney. Yes. Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
I'll have to abstain due to a potential conflict of interest.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. So, Commissioners, the action to postpone this till December 18th has been approved. Manager Ritzman.
Yes, for that end of regular agenda. Which one?
Oh, yeah.
We've just pulled that all together.
G12 is off.
Yeah.
We have.
So we're done.
The Commission Initiative funding.
Yep.
Was a suggested item. Oh, is that under new business or is that under?
So I have a report this evening.
We have a report.
My manager's report.
Okay. So we got through everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, so I will be brief here. So a few weeks ago or a few meetings ago, our 311 staff, if you recall, were in the audience, and they've done an outstanding job of taking what was a system that we began in 2018, so 5 years ago, realizing we've been through COVID and all of that, to where it is today. And just want to recognize the work that's been done there by the team. So for this year, the team has completed about 668 hours of professional development, including 145 hours of department-specific training. Shanna Holt, Jennifer Dean Visser, and Mimi Leak reached their 5 years of service milestone, having been part of 311 team since its inception. So we appreciate the work that they've put in with that. So thus far to date, there have been 74,000 calls with a month to go, 2023. 11,158 service messages sent to 18 departments and 311 supports. Average hold time under 1 minute and 30 seconds, and average call handle time at about 3 minutes. And want to really reinforce too that 85% of the calls were resolved in the first call, as demonstrating that they are a solution center, and that's the idea is answer, don't transfer. So that's their motto. And just want to highlight that department this evening and the great work that they're doing. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Manager Risma. Now we are down to new business. Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. So every year, the City Commission has funds that we can allocate to a purpose that benefits the community. And if I believe correctly, we have unallocated funds of about $50,000. More?
We have an updated number for you. It's actually 91,000.
Well, team, we have $91,000 to figure out how we're going to put that within our community. And we just had a very lengthy talk about water. And I believe, I've got some numbers here, that we should use some of those funds to continue to put water fountains within our parks. I know there's one that we've already done here. Director Bacon and his team put it in here at the Bronson Park, but I think we should be thinking of other parks where there are a lot of individuals that stay, where kids stay, where the communities go. So it costs about $25,000, I believe, for the apparatus itself. And it would be, again, a $6,000 hookup and about a $1,200 for the smart meter. So I believe that we should allocate some of those funds to at least that cause to start. Well, now since I know we have more money, we could pick more than one park if we decided. Again, I'm just one voice here, so I'm just kind of throwing out the idea that I think for right now. So I'm definitely open to hearing what you guys think about that and if we have any other ideas of where we can do those funds.
I was going to make a humble suggestion here, Commissioner Decker, with a question first. I thought we set aside 30 grand out of that for transportation van.
Yeah, that was approved at the last meeting. So what that 91,000 reflects is also a $33,000 carry forward from last year.
Okay.
That brought forward. So that 33,000 and what's remaining total 91,000. And just to give you a sense that in the 2024 budget, there'll be another 100,000 that would be allocated. Allocated for commission initiatives. And what we really want to do is get a commitment. If the commission decides to move forward with 91,000, we'd like a commitment to do that rather than carry forward amounts every year. So we can agree to carry forward the 91,000 into next year with an understanding that we would then be committed to spending 191,000 next year on initiatives.
Thank you, Manager. So I was just going to jump in here. I know Commissioner Perry will say something, but here, since this is new business that most of us did not necessarily discuss or think about, what about the idea of coming up with some ideas and then talking about it at our next meeting, rather than deciding on one idea from someone who's been thoughtfully already thinking about it, maybe ahead of other folks? What do you think about, Commissioner? Yeah, Commissioner Prado.
Yeah. I really appreciate the fact that you're like on the hunt to spend this money, because we got so many issues in our community, and I just think it's almost sinful to end the year and not have spent this money, and that's something that bothers me. I think one of the things that I kind of struggle with when the ideas pop up at the dais is I'm like, yeah, do you support transporting the youth? Yeah, let's do it. Do I support shopping with the seniors? Yeah, let's do it. A lot of the times the things that come forward are things that it's not hard to get behind, but the hard part is there's 6 or 7 of us total who might have ideas, and because of the Open Meetings Act, it's not like we can be like calling each other and be like, hey, Commissioner Decker, hey, Commissioner Hoffman, hey, Commissioner Cooney, I got this idea, you want to do it? We need to do it in a public setting. So my question is would it be possible maybe that we make a commitment to ourselves to either commit to a very early committee of the whole meeting, as soon as possible, to all come with our ideas and kind of publicly hash it out a little bit, and then reconcile and have a plan for the whole year ahead to spend it? Or could we maybe do it as part of our retreat, just to say that's maybe part of, a half an hour of our retreat where we bring in the ideas there, it's an open meeting, we can discuss it, and then we walk away saying, hey, we've got our whole plan how to spend this for all of 2024, and we don't end up in the middle of December before the end of the year with $91,000 in the coffer. I mean, that's just an idea. And I would feel slightly more comfortable about that, because I know that every person has an opportunity to bring ideas forward that might matter to them. Your thoughts about that, Commissioner Decker? But
I think that's fine. I'm still going to fight for my drinking fountain.
Bring it. No, I'm just
Manager Isma?
Yeah. And I would ask our Chief Operating Officer, Laura Lamb, about the budget work session, being able to add the discussion about the initiatives fund at that meeting. That shouldn't be a problem?
Or Manager Isma, or talking about it at our retreat.
Oh, the retreat.
You already talked about the possibility of rolling it forward.
The retreat?
Is that what you're talking about?
Or we have an open committee of the whole on the 22nd that we could... why don't we do it at a committee of the whole? That way we know we got a certain amount of work we want to do at the retreat, so we know.
Okay.
I'm good with that. I like the retreat.
So the 22nd.
It'd be nice if we could do it sooner than later, I think, especially knowing that there's almost at the whole budget year at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker, for reminding us about this. It's easy to lose track. All right. Is any other discussion on this new business item? Okay, we're good to go then. All right. Next is the opportunity for commissioners who wish to make comments this evening. Are there any commissioners who would like to comment on a topic? I know there are, so who would like to start? Commissioner Cooney.
So I want to thank my colleague, Dr. Saeed, for coming down and raising the issue of a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. My position is this: my heart goes out to the people who's lost people in their family that are now being held as hostages, and the innocent Israelis that were killed on October the 6th. These are war crimes, and people should be brought to account for that. But indiscriminate bombing is not the answer to that. There are 15,000 at least killed in Gaza. Almost 70% of them are women and children. We have hospitals. We just had a long discussion about how important water is and sanitation, and those things are completely absent in Gaza. And the World Health Organization warned today that disease is imminent and it might kill more people than the bombings. And so I think there should stop the killing. The war should stop. And we are not innocent bystanders in this. The Wall Street Journal published today the number of rifles and of bombs that this country has sent to Israel since October the 6th. Martin Luther King said one time that when he spoke out against the war in Vietnam, he wanted to speak about it earlier, but he kept quiet. But finally he said there comes a time when silence is betrayal. And it seems to me that not to speak out against this killing is betrayal. And so I am very much in favor of drawing up a resolution and joining the other cities in Michigan and around the world who have called for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Other commissioners? Commissioner Praedel.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to kind of challenge all of us to think about shopping local here in the next few weeks. The Michigan Economic Development Corp put out this post, and they said, if each of us just bought 1 in 10 of our holiday gifts locally, just 1 in 10, it would bring in an estimated $2.4 billion to the state of Michigan. If just 1 out of 10 gift we purchase over the holidays. And, you know, I know just kind of speaking to some small mom and pop type shops, people who are local, who even have online businesses, people who have storefronts, they're having a tough time in many cases right now. And so just really want to encourage us to all be pretty intentional. I know I need to do that. It's so easy when you can just pull out your phone and order something that's going to be delivered the next day. But it makes a huge difference for the people who are, you know, had a dream to create a business and to start it here in our community and to try to support them somehow. I want to make sure to mention that. I want to take a minute as well just to recognize Steve Asensi and his team. You know, we recognize a lot of people in the city for the work we do, and oftentimes we get this, you know, giant budget packet delivered on time every single year on December 1st. But there is a team that works so hard for months and months and months and months to make that possible so that we get that document to examine and work on. And so just want to really thank the budget team for all their work and the effort that goes into that. And then lastly, I just wanted to also just mention, so this weekend was a really kind of a neat, exciting opportunity for the city of Kalamazoo. So there's an organization called Strong Towns, and they are like the preeminent, I mean, people who are the best of the best in planning, people who do work in municipal government, and just people who are all around like just nerds about, you know, non-motorized transportation and thinking about safe roads and those kind of things, mentioned the city of Kalamazoo in a shout out. And there are, I mean, tens of thousands of people who follow this who are the best of the best. And the post just says, huge win for the city of Kalamazoo from their account. And it says, in the post it said, Kalamazoo, Michigan has been making their streets safer by decreasing motor vehicle lanes, building bike lanes, and adding other amenities. Since these changes, injury crashes have dropped by 100%, and downtown has become a place for spending time in, not just driving through. And so again, the fact that people who are the best in the best industry are looking at us and seeing us as kind of a pillar or model for the work of doing this work, it's a really huge honor for us. And by no stretch of the imagination do we ever get this work perfect, right? If we do 100 projects, there might be 3 of them that frustrate people and that we need to figure out how to iron out, but we are doing a lot of wins as well for this community. And so I just wanted to make sure to mention that and give a shout out to city staff for making that possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Praedel. Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to echo what Commissioner Praedel says over there. Steve, you and your team do great work and great jobs, and we appreciate it a lot. We do. because really, you know, the funding is kind of what keeps the city running, so our residents can enjoy the time here. I did want to speak on just two things real quick. There was a gentleman that had something to say within the or within the public comments, and he talked about, you know, our schools and the promise, and, you know, how some of our kids are not reaching certain grades at a reading level. I do know that the superintendent has started to take action in trying to keep our kids in school. You know, first and foremost, if a child is not in school, going to the doors and knocking on the doors and saying, "Where's your kid? What's going on? Let's get him into school." And then one thing that I wanted to lift up, it's newly created by the Governor Whitmer. It's called Michigan of Lifelong Education Advancement and Potential, MyLeap. We love acronyms around here. That starts with a child at 2 years old, going all the way up to 22 years old. And some of the goals that they have, or three of their main goals, is the creation of the Office of Early Childhood Development, Office of Higher Education, and Office of Education Partnerships. And I think really her team, and really implementing what we need to do here in the state of Michigan to get our kids back to that pre-COVID level in reading and education, I think is phenomenal, because we do have the Kalamazoo Promise here. It is a beneficial. I wish I had the Kalamazoo Promise when I was coming up. Commissioner Wilson's over there. He's living proof that, you know, you can do that, you can get that, you can go to school, and you can do big things. So I just wanted to kind of uplift that a little bit, that we do a lot here within the city of Kalamazoo, but it does take more information from the state level, I think, to really put some things into place to just make sure our kids are educated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Other comments? Vice Mayor Hess.
Hello. Yes, a few things. First, a shout out to Doug in IT. I think it's Doug. Don. Don, sorry. Big shout out to you. I think there's 3 Dons, right? And doing things for my city phone and my computer that I never would have believed that anybody could do. So thank you for that fix. Talking about shopping downtown, come downtown for this amazing entertainment. We are so blessed here in the city to have theaters like the Civic. If you haven't seen Sound of Music, go see it. It's a celebration of the soul of this community, of the people that live in this community and have put on such a beautiful show and an amazing show. It's right down the street here at the Civic. So that, and then to the Farmers Alley Theater for every brilliant thing that's happening here in December, to the new movie theater that is populated on Portage and South. So please come on downtown, do your shopping, and maybe have a meal, and see all the good things that are happening in downtown Kalamazoo with free parking in the few ramps that we have designated. We have free 90-minute parking in those ramps as a holiday gift. Did 2 different meetings or events. The first one was at Western Michigan last week at formerly East Hall, now Heritage Hall, where there's a celebration of the first African-American contractor in Kalamazoo, George White, who was a mason who built that building, and it still stands today. It's a gorgeous, it's now a work of art after its renovation, and congratulations to WMU on recognizing that and celebrating Mr. White. And then also, there was a meeting this morning and regarding downtown, and folks gathered. I know that there are some folks who are frustrated. I read it online, on social media. This is a time of immense change in the city. But what I have to say is that I appreciate the spirit of respect and approaching these issues with kindness toward each other. As Commission, we hear you. This is larger than us. This is a big lift, and this is a long, long project. We appreciate your patience during this time of rebuild, during this time of construction and renewal, just like we are with the water and just like we are with housing. This calls for patience and commitment. We can't promise there won't be challenges, but be assured that we want positive outcomes for everyone here, for the businesses here, for the families here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hess. Other comments from any commissioners at this time? All right, thank you so much. Hey, I mean, this is a time of year when we think about gratitude a great deal. And not that we shouldn't think of it year round, but at least we try to focus on it as we roll into the end of the calendar here with all the various recognitions we have. And I am continually reminded about all the great community work that happens by intent. Community is not created by accident. It isn't just something that spontaneously occurs. And just a few things that reinforce that. Several of us had the opportunity to go to the Urban Alliance to Change of Status event, which is a profoundly moving event for providing support to individuals who have had challenges and made mistakes and want to change the trajectory of their lives. And that work is so important and so personal and so engaged, and it would not happen if there weren't people who were willing to do that hard work and engagement and love people one-to-one. That's what it takes. That was a very moving experience. Thank you, Urban Alliance, for continuing to do that work. Another gathering, a little different, but similar in some ways, was this very large regional gathering for several, at least a couple of us were there for Alpha Kappa Alpha here in town, regional gathering, several hundred people there, which is once again an organization that is there committed to helping others, helping each other, building a community structure that rewards success and takes care of need. Another organization, we don't talk about it all the time, just quietly doing that work, not asking for accolades or recognition. Very, very impressive. And then the last thing, this is one of those challenging things which I don't really wish on anybody, but we have a great community organization, Community Homeworks in town here, that is sponsoring a gingerbread house competition. And so I got to participate, thank you, Commissioner Pradel, in the judging of those gingerbread houses. There's only going to be one winner. And I was noticing as I was doing my scoring, I was just thinking of something great to score for every single one, which made me realize, how are they going to take these numbers and pull a winner out of that? But it's just a great downtown event, talking about that. It's a fundraiser. Okay. And the hours that people put in to working on some of these, you got to go see them. And I know you're talking about doubling that next year. So I'm going to be asking for some more judging help next year if that happens. It was really something today. Vice Mayor Hess? What's that? Could you use your mic? Yes, Vice Mayor.
I forgot to mention gratitude for the folks at Parks and Rec who lit up the park and had over 4,000 people at the lighting of that park. But and we see it coming early November, late October, them working really diligently on making the park as beautiful as it is. And I'm just reminded because I get to sit here and look at it. So I just wanted to.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Appreciate that.
To thank you to Parks and Rec. That was a labor of love.
So anyway, that was difficult for me, I have to admit. Hard to be a harsh judge for all those, creative as can be, and virtually all edible. So there you go. Anybody with interest in construction should definitely check some of these out. All right. And I'm grateful for the team I get to work with here at the city, Manager Ritzma, and all the great folks across all the endeavors that we make, and you, that we sit up here together and get to do this work together and try to do the best we can for the place we live. So thank you, everyone here on the dais. Thank you. I love you, Kalamazoo. We are adjourned.